Evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular bi-monthly town board meeting of Monday, March 8th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. If you could all join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. So tonight we have the distinct pleasure of issuing the oath of office to 3 police officers joining the rank. Officer Tia Frunze, Officer Antonio Jennings, and Officer Margaret Carey. And we'll also be swearing in formally Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichgott. So, and we also have the distinct honor to honor 2 of our officers, Detective Stephen Christian and Officer Gerard Shiloh. The chief will be administering officer commendations to those 2 officers for their fine work. So I will take a position in the front of this dais. And yes, thank you so much, Deirdre.
No problem. Can you squeeze in?
I can, thank you.
We need smaller chairs.
So I'm going to read the oath one time and then ask you to state your names. Does that work? Okay, wait.
And those.
So this is the oath. If you can repeat after me and then state your names individually, we'll go down. I
Tia Frunze, Margaret Carey,
Antonio Jennings.
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer for the town of Tuxedo,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the town of Tuxedo,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the Tuxedo Police Department,
Thank you.
and thank you. And Deputy Supervisor?
Do I need to come down there?
Yes,
Okay.
why not? I
I, J. Howard Reichgott,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Deputy Supervisor for the town of Tuxedo,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of Deputy Supervisor for the town of Tuxedo
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
You've got to, one of these 2, you got to come in.
Check. All right. Good evening, everybody. On the night of November 6, 2020, Detective Stephen Christian and Officer Gerard Shiloh were working their tour and patrol in the town of Tuxedo. At approximately 8:25, dispatch directed them to respond for a senior citizen who was having a cardiac arrest. Upon arrival to the scene, a family member was administering CPR. Detective Christian took over chest compressions, while Officer Shiloh produced a department defibrillator. While CPR was continuing, the machine advised the officers to administer a shock. The shock was delivered and CPR was resumed. After a few minutes of doing CPR, again, the machine advised to administer another shock. After this shock was delivered, the patient began self-breathing once again. EMS arrived and transported the patient to the hospital for advanced care and recovery services. When I was told of this incident, I was surprised that I was surprised to learn that no citations were given for these actions. I then spoke to the victim's family, and they advised me that the patient was recovering and was currently doing very well. So the family wanted to express their admiration specifically for the named officers and their actions tonight. Of that night. So I contacted the tuxedo supervisor and the town board about my desire, after hearing about this, my desire to issue commendations to Detective Christian and Officer Shiloh, because these are exemplary actions that were taken that night, and they should be recognized. The town board and the town supervisor immediately and unanimously agreed. So although it's been 2 years, there is no expiration date in honoring the heroic actions of our police. With that, I present to each of you an official police commendation for your life-saving actions and a life-saving medal to be worn on your uniform as a token of our admiration and our gratitude. Congratulations, gentlemen. You have made not just your loved ones, your friends, and your coworkers proud, but your entire community. So, Officer Shiloh and Detective Christian, please come up. This is from the District Attorney's Office. Congratulations. Officer Shiloh, and Detective Christian. The medals. There might be blood. Sorry, guys. These Class A uniforms are pretty tough. Slowly and proudly, gentlemen.
Actually, it's probably easier if I just.
Company 10 up. Company present off. Alley.
Leave you to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
See, I knew they didn't come for us. Well, I hope for you at home who are joining our meeting remotely, it was touching and impressive, acknowledging hiring of new officers and recognizing 2 of our officers for literally life-saving work. We're going to continue our meeting now, so thank you. First, let me just review the agenda. We have 4 agenda items on the docket. Number 1, a resolution to award a bid or consider awarding a bid for the Route 17 Corridor Economic Development Greenway Study. Second item, resolution to approve a sign permit. I'm going to go out on a limb and think we will be resolving that this evening. A resolution to approve the form of the petition for the proposition to increase the town board budgetary allocation for the Tuxedo Park Library. And the fourth item is a resolution to consider approving rental fees for town parks and facilities. And we have time for a couple of discussion items, which we'll get into as we get to that. So before we begin, I'll just survey to see if we have any public comment or questions about agenda items. And as always, we'll certainly take questions as we discuss these items.
Somebody has.
Oh, somebody has their hand.
Oh, somebody has their hand up. Okay, yeah, the 914 area code, you can unmute yourself and identify yourself, please.
Hi, it's Evelyn David. How is everybody? I hope you're all fine.
Very good.
Oh,
Evelyn,
so nice
thank
to,
you. Thanks
good,
for joining
great.
us.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have a question. I don't know when to ask it. It has nothing to do with any of the agenda items. Has to do
So-
with weather issues. When do you
Okay,
want
so
me to do
we'll
it?
take public comments later on in the agenda.
After, okay, great. Okay, wonderful. Okay,
And
thank
I'll
you.
make a note that you wanted to make a comment, Evelyn.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, thanks.
Welcome.
All right. Okay,
Thank you for attending. Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Okay, so we'll move right into the first agenda item. I'll make a motion so we can open up the discussion. Agenda item number 1 is a resolution to award the bid for the Route 17 Corridor Economic Development Greenway Study. I'll make a motion and ask for a second that the town board considers awarding the Route 17 Corridor Economic Development Greenway Study to Nelson Pope for his, according to their bid submission. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deirdre Murphy. So that opens up for the town board, opportunity to discuss the motion. Deirdre, I don't know if you wanted to make an opening statement or?
So we did put an RFP out, and Nelson Pope did respond to our RFP. The point of the study is to analyze and basically analyze and show all the opportunities that we have in the Route 17 corridor, starting, which many people have asked me, that starts at the beginning of the border of Tuxedo and goes all the way through Southfields. So that is the area that we are studying. And that study will involve looking at the economic status of what is actually occurring and where we have opportunities to develop those commercial areas for future development. So Valerie is attending tonight to answer any other questions that the board may have. One of the things that was in the RFP, which I missed actually, was town meetings to discuss the findings of the Greenway study. So Valerie asked, and I agreed, that we should have that as a separate item to the actual proposal, should we decide to go forward with town meetings once we have all the information. But the purpose of the study is really to develop an actionable marketing plan going forward to be able to try to reinforce the revitalization programs that we are currently working on for the hamlet, which also will extend into Southfields. So that is the purpose of this study. And it is one of the many other things that we're working on for revitalizing the downtown and the commercial corridor of Route 17. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
How long does a study take to complete?
There's an actual calendar. I think we're looking at a completion date of October. Right, Valerie? There's an actual.
6 months.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So we would be able to take the study and be able to formulate an initial plan, hopefully by the end of this year.
Thank you.
So I reviewed the packet that was distributed, and thank you. A big chunk of it was the credentials that Nelson Pope Voorhees brings to the table. Obviously, Town of Tuxedo has been working with this firm for about 25 years. Valerie and Bonnie continue to work with both Town Board and the Planning and ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals. So I witnessed them working on a regular basis, and their contributions to the work of the town are indispensable. And so I don't think there's any question about their capacity to be able to conduct this work. And the packet of their credentials speaks for itself. I don't think we need to read that into the record. I think what probably says the most about what we're signing on for is the scope of services page on page 7 of the proposal, Valerie. If you would just walk us through that, not necessarily verbatim, but the highlights, and so that our audience and people who might watch this video recording would get a sense of what this scope of work is.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So basically, we have about 6 different components, or actually, excuse me, 7 different components to the project. The first is a kickoff meeting. This will be basically just a meeting to discuss like the overall scope of the project, as well as what information we would need, and as well as the project schedule. The second component is really focused on description of the market area. So this is really going to talk about the Route 17 corridor, where it's located, its demographics, and also look at the immediate and also larger market area. And the important piece about this is, while you as the town board understand this, and while many of the residents do, part of the goal of this is to have a document at the end that you can also funnel out to people outside of the area, or new businesses, or potentially, you know, even working with other tourism agencies to try to really drum up additional residents and also visitors coming to the Route 17 corridor. We're also going to look at the economic trends. This will specifically focus on, you know, the major employers in the area, also the businesses in the area, and sales leakage or surplus, meaning how much sales are you losing from people even in your area going somewhere else to purchase those particular products, or vice versa, how many people are coming into your community to actually purchase or partake in certain businesses and certain establishments. Then we'll also look at the tourism potential, because if you recall, since COVID, you know, the state parks visitation has increased dramatically. And so how we're going to look at the local tourism industry and how potentially we can capture some of that tourist industry along the Route 17 corridor, especially since they're so close to so many other highlights within the Hudson Valley area. And then we're also going to look at opportunity sites. So this is really going to focus on particular areas that you want to look at in terms of potential redevelopment. We'll also look at ones that maybe the town actually owns. And we'll also look at underutilized properties that maybe could become something else beyond what they are existing today. And then we're going to identify obstacles for economic growth. So this will identify different areas or issues that maybe the town needs to look at or consider in terms of maybe some tweaks or even some additional like policies or programs that the town might want to consider to help with the economic growth. And then finally, what we're calling the implementation plan is basically all these components together in one plan that will be easily able to, you know, distribute to the wider community, as well as any interested property owners or businesses and potentially entrepreneurs.
Any questions for Val?
No, I'd just like to, we don't say that here, but we applied for a grant to pay for half of this project, and we were awarded that grant. So the $18,000 figure is partially funded by $9,000 grant, which Valerie and Bonnie helped us get. So one other thing just to add is that, we've already been talking, Deirdre and I, several meetings with Orange County Partnership, which I would think, Valerie, would be a really good organization to present our findings to, because they're always in touch with companies looking to locate in Orange County, as well as we've met with the Orange County Board of Economic Development and Tourism and Film. So
Right, absolutely.
we have a lot of opportunities to send our implementation program out.
So Valerie, probably numerically and in importance, the kickoff meeting, identifying critical stakeholders and generating interest in this study and participation. Who do you see as those critical stakeholders, and how might we outreach to them to get them encouraged to participate?
Right, so I think that's going to be part of the kickoff meeting, but any of your local businesses, your chambers, I know you have numerous smaller groups, and, just recently you had an economic development forum, and, so maybe working with those people, as well as I'd like to also reach out to Orange County, Department of Economic Tourism, to also identify potential other key stakeholders. So really the first kickoff meeting is not necessarily a meeting where all those stakeholders come, but it's really a meeting with the town to kind of say, who do we want to reach out to? Who do we want to contact to get additional information? And a lot of it's going to be your local merchants, right? It's really great to hear your current business owners and what are the things that they have, their ideas, and also any obstacles or, concerns that they have that we can also incorporate into part of the implementation plan.
May I ask you a question? Do you work with the Chamber of Commerce? They seem to aggregate a lot of the businesses in the town, and do you plan to work with them?
Yeah, so typically in most communities that we're in, when we do economic development studies, we will reach out to the chambers to get their input and their thoughts. And then it's also clearly, because this is really going to be focusing on the Route 17 corridor, so we'll really also be helping to focus along the businesses along and reach out to those along the Route 17 corridor as well.
So I think the other important page that Councilperson Maria May asked a question related about schedule.
Yeah.
Could you similarly just briefly run us through the schedule as you have it outlined there?
Sure. Let me just pull it.
Page 19.
Yes, so I think this schedule, just to let you, so I think one of the things with the, hold on. Sorry. All right, so what we're anticipating, so we did have, so in this schedule, we did work in the community outreach portions that were identified also in the request for proposals. So I'm just going to kind of, I'm not going to mention those because I think the town at this point is interested in not necessarily doing those facets, which is fine because I think to a larger extent, we will be reaching out to the businesses no matter what during this process. So it's not like we won't be engaging with the community. But so months 1 and 2, we identified basically a kickoff meeting, pulling together a lot of information in terms of documentation that we're going to need. And then months 3 and 4 are really going to be working on the actual synthesizing and the data gathering, and also reaching out to a number of different agencies, the businesses, and getting more information on the market area, economic trends, and tourism potential. And then we will also, months 5, will work on identifying opportunity sites and obstacles to growth. And at that point, we'll already, during the kickoff meeting, we probably will already identify some initial properties. So during months 3 and 4, we'll be working to get more information on those particular potential opportunity sites. And then month 6 is a draft of the implementation plan, and in which we'll circulate to the town board and then incorporate any feedback or comments that you have on that plan.
Would there be opportunities for updates along the way, or is it basically, is this your schedule, and would you be communicating these updates along the way?
Yeah, so this is our initial schedule, but like with any project we take, we go with the schedule that the town most wants to move forward with. So if for some reason, let's say, for example, you decide you want to do additional outreach to businesses, and it's going to take a little longer, that's fine. We just want you to understand or know that we are ready to move forward and complete this in a 6-month process. That being said, there's plenty of times we work on any sort of comprehensive plans or any sort of plans where the community decides they want to take that, additional time to get more information or reach out to the public, and we can easily accommodate that.
I have another question. So we have a number of businesses in town that are owned by aggregate groups of people. They're like LLCs.
Yeah.
And we have found difficult communicating with a person when we want to extend, for example, information for the LDC and things like that. Do you guys have a process for, finding these people and getting them to come to the table?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of times our process is your process. It's, trying to find the addresses, trying to find the contact information. Maybe if somebody happens to, let's just say it's somebody who happens to have a number of tenants, maybe the tenants know a good way of contacting them. So, unfortunately, with any planning process, you can always, it's best that all communities open up their doors for comment and input. But at some point, you also have people that are just not interested in participating, and there's only so much you can do. But again, we'll work with the town to, if you already have some starting points on contacts, that's where our starting point will be. And then we'll build off of that.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So in the schedule, you've defined basically 3 public meetings or presentations or forums,
Yes.
conversations, all of the above. And then there was the addenda task of 2 additional public workshops, which then says, and then each additional meeting not included in this scope has its own fee. And so my question is, the 3 meetings defined in the schedule are already included in the $18,000 project fee? Or those are not, and that is where we are either in for $3,000 a pop or $500 each?
Right. That's a good question. So the RFP actually identified having I think it was 2 workshops and a meeting with the town board. So what we're proposing, the kickoff meeting is definitely part of the $18,000 fee. The additional public workshops are not, and that's why we specifically carved those out so that the town could understand the additional cost to those. But the scope of work that I went through in terms just a few minutes ago, that's the $18,000. Within the schedule itself, like the community engagement plan, as well as public workshops, those would not be part of the $18,000.
Okay, so I'm still a little confused, so bear with me.
Sure.
Going to the schedule that's published here, which is what came out of which is what you just went through in terms of what happens month to month.
Yes.
Month 1, we have a kickoff meeting, which is a meeting with us, so I expect that's included.
That's correct.
Months 3 and 4, 1 public presentation and community conversation. Is that included in the $18,000, or is that
No.
one of these meetings that's down below?
No, that is not in part of the $18,000. That would have been part of the meetings down below.
And then in month 6, a public forum to discuss the draft implementation plan. Is
Right.
that included, or is that one of the meetings, is that
That
the
would also
4th
be- right.
meeting in the 3 meetings set below? The
Right, that's
third
part of the
meeting.
meeting step below. Now, that being said, we would be happy to come to a town board meeting to present the draft implementation plan and do a presentation. That's not a problem at all. And, we would expect something like that to take place. And so clearly at that point, people can comment on it, and we can also do a comment period if you'd like, where we have the draft plan, the town can post it to their website and take public feedback off the plan too. So, there's other ways to, get that public feedback throughout the process. And we can work with the town to identify those.
Thank you.
Of course. Deidre would like to comment. Please go ahead.
So in my experience, it's probably best to have public forums once a plan has been developed, so that the plan, based on the information and the research that you do, is something that everybody can digest. Having public forum meetings without any conclusions or without any action plans is really nice, but it doesn't really get you to the next step. So to me, having public forum meetings would happen, should we decide to do it, after there is an actionable plan to move forward, to me. That's what I believe.
As long as these meetings, I mean, when I read one public presentation and community conversation on existing conditions and visioning, if that's a presentation of status, that's one thing. If that's a information
Right.
gathering piece, that's a completely different item.
Right, so, I mean, I can explain that a little bit more. So the schedule itself included that public participation component that was in the request for proposal. And that's why, so that's why the schedule has those components in there. But if it's really the one public presentation and the one public presentation and community conversation, those are the two components that would not be part of the overall scope, as well as that last, specifically the public forum. It's different than when we talk about public forum or public, public, workshops. Those are going to be more like your comprehensive plan workshops, where you're inviting a large swath, the community, and engaging in input. So in terms of getting public comment on the draft plan and stuff, that can be done, as you normally would in other business, town board matters, where you could not necessarily have a public hearing, but when you have a public hearing on a local law, you invite the public to speak. We can do something like that at a town board meeting if you'd like.
Right. My question is really, are those meetings necessary to gather the information you need to put the plan together? Or are they informational to provide a status update to the community?
Right. So that's it. Again, that's another good question. So typically in a plan like this, since when you have a comprehensive plan, you're asking people to identify the issues or concerns, right? And you want to hear from the public. Not that you don't want to hear from the public on this type of plan, but it's a little bit different because it's so much of it is based on data and actual numbers versus, versus what people see in their everyday backyard when they're dealing with, for example, a street gets busy, or if they have issues with, noise, those types of things. We will be reaching out to the business community, and they're the people that are really important to provide us information and feedback on, but they were going to be part of the outreach to begin with in terms of our data gathering process. So I don't think it's necessary to have those additional workshops, which is why we also kind of carved it out as a separate piece, because we felt that in case the town wanted to move forward without them, that was not going to be problematic in terms of the product you're going to get.
If
So
I might,
basically, what I'm hearing is that in order to put a plan together and do all the research, we don't need open meetings with the public. But the public should be involved in knowing the status going forward of what our findings are.
That's fine.
That's what I mean.
I just don't want to hear in 6 months, sorry, guys, you should have had the other 2 meetings.
I agree, but I don't see why to gather research, you would need to have public meetings.
if I might, my understanding is,
Sorry. Go ahead, Howard.
okay, you're going to be, Valerie, you're going to be reaching out to various segments of the population as part of your information gathering.
That's correct.
So you'll be engaging with the public for much of the process while you're doing that.
That's correct.
At some point, after you've done that, and you've compiled some, or reached some conclusions and are going to present your recommendations, You will do that at a town board meeting in
That's
which
correct.
members of the public will be able to participate, to sit and listen, and then ask some questions.
Yes,
It's like many other things that the town board does at a town board meeting.
that's correct.
Yeah, I was just thinking when in month 6 where it says public forum, to you, that means something different than just presenting your findings and the draft plan to the town
That's
board.
correct. And that again related back to the request for proposal where it actually used the word forum in there. So in a forum is typically a much bigger sort of event versus what, Howard was just mentioning in terms of a presentation at the town board meeting and then getting public input from the town board and also the public.
Well, I imagine Valerie, with your team as they're interviewing and assembling information in your survey, certainly we'd offer you space here in Town Hall if you needed to meet with any people locally. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. And yeah, we can always work out something like maybe it's an open house one day where we have, businesses, owners can come by or even merchants, and just sit and talk to us, so that might be something we can work out as well.
That would be included in the 18,000.
Yes,
Dollar
yes.
quote.
That's part of like the data gathering
I
phases.
think
Yeah.
that's the question here, is like, there's a fine line between your public interaction and what is in the quote and what's not in the quote. That's.
Right. So, I mean, if you'd like, well, and that's part of the kickoff meeting where we can sit down and kind of identify exactly the type of outreach. Because, in the kickoff meeting, we do talk about reaching out to stakeholders, right? So this is part of our outreach to the stakeholders. And then we can talk about how best to, is it doing a quick survey, and sending that out to them? Is it actually making the phone calls? Is it inviting them to come speak? So we can talk about how best to reach out to the various stakeholder groups.
I'd just like to offer
Well, I'm looking at Diane.
any questions from the public here. Jerry raised his hand.
One question, does that mean the May 18th meeting is off?
It's a
No,
separate issue.
Separate.
Separate.
Separate issue. That's about the Burgess study, revamping from
Yes.
some earlier. Obviously, these are related topics of town revitalization. I think one of the major differences here, the Greenway grant is looking at the full corridor of Route 17 from border to border, whereas the LDC and Hamlet revitalization of the Burgess study mostly has to do with town center here.
Right, but we will incorporate, some of the findings of the Burgess study, right? And we will refer to that because it's good to have those, kind of work together as much as possible.
And there's a lot of data in the comprehensive plan about people who commute, people who work in Tuxedo.
Right.
That was updated in 2018, but, based on the 2020 census, maybe that could even be updated a little more.
Yep.
But I was just looking at Diane, who's here tonight from the library. She probably has a lot of data.
I'm happy to host if you need a location
Huh?
to meet up.
Thank you, Diane.
So Diane offered the library for a location for meetings.
And if anybody doesn't know who Diane Loomis is, the director of the Tuxedo Park Library, honored to have you here this evening. Any other questions from the audience or from the board?
I don't know.
Comment?
Evelyn, did you
Evelyn?
raise your hand or
I think her hand has been raised.
was that?
Yeah, I think it's,
It's a
hasn't come
permanent.
down.
I'll take that as a no. Any other further discussion on town board? Okay, so we'll close the discussion. Do we feel prepared to vote on this evening? Quick survey, anybody feel like we should vote on this?
I can.
Okay. So
I mean,
can I. All right, so I'll come back to the resolution to award the bid for the Route 17 Corridor Economic Development Greenway Study to Nelson Pope Voorhees on their bid submitted to the town board. I'll just say all in favor?
Wait.
Oh,
wait,
sorry.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. What are we approving?
Oh, okay, I thought we were approving the $18,000.
Task 1 through 7,
Okay, that's fine.
just the 18.
Just
And the
so long
scope
as-
of services.
That's fine, so long as we're clear that
Yeah.
we're approving that and not at this
Right.
point, we're not approving the additional
Agreed,
meetings.
totally.
And presentations.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, yes, now I'm ready.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Let it be known, it was a unanimous vote. Thank you, Valerie, for coming
Thank
out and
you.
answering all our questions.
Thank
And
you.
look forward to working with you. in more
Yes,
depth.
we are too. Thank you.
Thank you. Second item. I know we have an interested party in the audience. The resolution to approve the sign permit for the Tuxedo Park Library. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the town board of the town of Tuxedo approve the Tuxedo Park Library sign permit to display their 24 by 36-inch advertising signs at various locations throughout the town, except at intersections with State Route
Route
17? Okay, I filled that in. Okay. I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Maria put her hand up,
All
so
right,
I'm
fine,
going
Maria will second that.
You can do the next one.
It's
to.
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
It's all good.
All good. Okay, do we need any further discussion on this?
I just
item?
have one
Please.
question
Okay.
or clarification. These are advertising for the Memorial Day picnic thing, right? Okay, just wanted to make sure
That was
I knew what we were approving.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Michelle seconds the question. Very good. So,
I don't want
ready to
somebody
vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There we go. All right, all agenda items to be so we set the bar high. Agenda item number 3, resolution to approve the form of petition for the proposition to increase town board budgetary allocation for the Tuxedo Park Library. I'll make a motion, ask for a second, that the library may circulate a form of petition for the proposition to increase town board budgetary allocation for the Tuxedo Park Library. I'm making the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
Michelle
second.
Lindsay. Okay, open to board questions?
Just
Discussion?
for,
Sorry,
just for
go ahead.
clarification, the form that's being approved is the form that they submitted.
Yes.
So this really just grants permission to circulate the petition, is that correct, Howard?
That's correct.
And just point of clarification, as I understand it, the library's budget increases go to public referendum, which appears on the November ballot. It's not a decision the town board makes, and I believe the proposed increase is recommended by the Board of Trustees of the library. And so I guess if people wanted to give some input, they should probably attend some of your meetings and give some feedback, but I'm sure you guys come up with a modest number and circulate a petition and then get it on the ballot.
And then people can vote on it.
Anything we're missing there, Howard? Is that the basic crux of the matter?
That is, you have it.
Any further questions or comments from the public? Anybody? No? Okay, I'll just make a motion. All in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
And the only thing, I guess, Marissa, can you, when you put out the official minutes, staple the form to the back of it? The petition form, so people can see what we voted on? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diane. You want to give a plug for the, no, for the picnic or,
May 29th after the parade.
After the
May
parade.
29th after the parade? So we're back, everything. What
18 years now.
what can we expect? Hot dogs and hamburgers and
Music, yeah,
music.
games, prizes, make it
the
fun.
prizes? Okay. I'm buying my tickets. I won once. I won the grand prize one year.
Someone can explain to me why a tricky tray is called a tricky tray.
I still don't get it either.
Go to your library and do your
They
research.
didn't, it's not in there, it's idiom, it's not, they didn't call it that where I
somewhere.
grew up.
Okay, well, I think we're up to item 4.
Item 4.
This is a resolution to approve rental fees, or certainly we're starting the process for town parks and facilities. This has been an item we've been discussing, updating our town code. Howard, I think we've said that resolution is sufficient just to change the fees. Is that accurate?
Yes, not to establish a new category of fees, but where a fee category has already been established, that amount may be changed by resolution.
So we can only do the current ones,
Well, no,
the ones
we
that have
can't.
currently?
The current values are embedded in the code. At least the
Yes.
deposit is, and I believe that the train station is also embedded in the code. But someone please
That's-
correct me on that.
Yeah, no, Jay's correct. Those categories of fees do not appear in our chapter in our town code entitled fees. So part of the rewrite of this chapter would be to extract those from that, the Parks and Recreation chapter, and just reference that the fees provided for in chapter 48 will be established and changeable by resolution.
Otherwise, if we wanted to change these fees as they currently stand, we'd have to pass a local law.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
That's why we need to, that's why there's this whole pile of stuff we have to fold into this change chapter, whatever, 93 or whichever one it is for Parks and Rec.
So, what we were trying to do is just make sure, at least for people who, it seems like it's only the parks that are now eligible for this review of the fee. Is that your interpretation or not?
They're not eligible either, because the only fee that we have in the chapter on parks is the deposit.
No.
Right. the
Okay.
deposit fee.
And for people following along at home, the deposit is something like $25. And the way it's written, it's not clear to me that you wouldn't get your money back even if you trashed the park. The language is poorly constructed,
So,
speaking as an engineer, not as a lawyer. I don't really think we can take any action on this unless we just want to discuss whether we think these fees are
I think,
in the
I
right
think
spot.
we could
I think that's why
use the
we
time for
included
some
it, yeah.
discussion
Yeah,
as
which is
opposed
fine.
to an action item.
I'd like to also, when we were going back and forth on this, add a security fee, traffic control for large groups. Because here we have, under deposit, certain deposit for up to 74 people, another category 75 to 150 people, and then over 150. So I don't know what the number would be, but over a certain number, I would think we need traffic control and some security.
That should probably be a category unto itself.
Exactly, should
You
be a
know.
category, because here we have cleaning fee, but
Right.
that's about it.
Yeah, no, that
But we
makes
have
sense.
deposit and cleaning fee.
Yeah,
Right, but no, I think that makes sense, and I
Yeah.
think that we should,
For anything over a certain amount, they have to be responsible for traffic and overtime for police.
right.
Yeah.
And I think we should bring in the chief and the LT
Let him,
and let them advise us on
Right.
where those numbers should be and how many people they're gonna need to work a particular size event.
Well, I think there needs to be a real distinction between resident, true resident activities and use of the field and what would clearly be a commercial use of the field. And I'd also like it to be clear that just because you're a resident in Tuxedo and you may have a business, that those two lines are not blurred. Because if you're using a field for commercial purposes, which I think would be typically the kind of events that we're talking about that would require police and the magnitude of crowds, as opposed to a family reunion that may be 75 to 100 people, that probably wouldn't require traffic control
Right,
and
right.
police. So I think.
One of my family reunions.
Well, maybe, we'll give the J asterisk to the law, and, all joking aside, I think those kind of things need to be considered, because I do remember a resident trying to book Murphy Field, as a resident, but it was clearly for a commercial purpose. And those two things need to be separated. And me personally, I really am not terribly in favor of using town fields for commercial purposes, me personally. I'm not asking for a vote on that, but I want to state my preference. Because if I lived across from Quarry Field, or you're using Tiki Field, which is not too far from my home, I think the residents around there, their considerations and what our parks, I don't see our parks as money-generating entities. And so that's my personal feeling about this. At least I would want that to be considered. That it's not just a field like Powerhouse Park, could be rented out for concerts. Because people live right across the river from there. And that, to me, is a special consideration. And first of all, it needs to be clear who has the authority to authorize some of these things. So first we have to decide what the recreation director has authority to approve, which would be the more smaller scale. Johnny's birthday party at Murphy Field, 20 kids and hats. Okay, that doesn't require a town board, in my view, approval, as opposed to a larger thing. So I think it needs to be clear as we go down this pathway, what is approvable without town board authority, and what would require that.
We also talked about the fact that, for example, if a team, wants to use the field for, something, a town-based team, like whatever, that the fees would be waived for that, because obviously they are our own kids, that would be using the field. So that was one of the things that we did want to make sure, that,
So we don't even have the law in front of us, and I think we're generating good ideas, or certainly fodder for further discussion. But if we're going to continue to move this forward, I think we have to really establish what the homework is before we put it on the agenda again, and either divvy it up or,
Well,
but I'm open to ideas.
no, I agree with you. And Maria and I and Deirdre have been working on some of this. They've been doing the bulk of the heavy lifting. And I'm gonna invoke the real life clause, and we weren't able to get that out in time for tonight's
Sure,
meeting. We weren't gonna
absolutely.
discuss it.
Right.
But we will come back, before the next meeting with homework assignments, and I think the reading list has already come out, but,
yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we had talked about last time, and there seemed to be some worry about, the Parks and Recreation being together. I did not see a single municipality where Parks and Recreation aren't together. So in an advisory board, and it's because I think a lot of recreation activities take place in parks or
Right.
related to parks, or, so I think that, and also in our own in our own town code, it says on 19.3, it says, the existing recreation department of the town of Tuxedo is hereby abolished. The Department of Parks and Recreation of the town of Tuxedo be and hereby is created as a separate department of town government of the town of Tuxedo of Orange County. So as it stands now.
Doesn't it also say that it's those are a one-year appointment by the board?
No, I'm talking about just, I'm just talking about the Parks and Recreation as, as a department that is itself. The recreation, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is appointed by the board, and they have a 3-year, and, you know, that's
Yeah,
a
but I
separate
thought the
thing.
Director of Parks and Recreation was also a one-year appointment by the board. That's what I read.
It says there shall be an officer of the town of, the director shall be an officer of the town of Tuxedo and shall report directly to the town board. I mean, we have a part-time person now that reports to us, obviously. But, you know, I'm just saying that,
Well, we're in a
I'm just saying
position,
that we can't separate those two and just say, oh, we're just gonna have,
No, we can, but
recreation.
we can.
I mean, we
That's-
can, but
That's
it's
part
not-
of the
Discussion,
discussion
yeah,
that we should
exactly.
have, so,
Exactly.
you know.
And in terms of the, obviously the highway department is in charge, and that's also specified here, of, the maintenance and so on, so
Yeah, I
that's
guess,
done.
but that bears the question of who is in charge of parks? So does the highway department then report to the Director of Recreation and
Well,
Parks?
and when I
or-
spoke to.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
You know, I'm
Kathleen
just
about
asking, I
it.
just
No,
don't
but,
get-
I mean, the short answer is no.
Okay.
They're tasked with maintenance in the same way they're tasked with changing light bulbs in town hall. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's under their
Right.
purview of responsibility, maintenance and things like that. But they
Uh-huh.
don't report to, if we had,
A director.
if we had more staff and
Right.
didn't do this all on handshakes and coffee.
Yeah.
There would be a form that the Director of Parks and Recreation would send to the superintendent requesting services.
Oh, God,
And
please
then they would
no.
bill back. So, careful what you ask for,
I
but
bet
that's,
please, yeah.
Well,
This is
and I-
more-
but that's
the
how
point.
it works in a big town.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the point I would make is, what's on paper in our code, and this has been a topic of dialogue for years. It's way more complicated when to Jay's point or all of the point is our recreation department is one
Right.
part-time person. So, comparing it to other towns is really not all that useful if you have one person. And that person has to be well-versed as to what authority they have.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
And
this
also-
now leads off, but to your point, as we grow, which in theory we are growing, right? We'll have twice as many residents who will be able to up the Parks and Recreation Department to at least 2 people.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we'll be getting
And
recreation fees.
and
with
recreation
the-
fees and more
Right,
taxes.
and so
Goes
there's a transition to when they first get their first certificate of occupancy and an actual
yeah, that's true.
resident moves in. So what are we doing between now and then? And
And the thing is, like,
That's what the
for
discussion
example,
will be
if,
about.
if Kathleen, if our recreation director, every time that there was some, park issue that she had to, had to go ask permission of somebody else that would add a whole more layer of,
Well, that's why I added,
Bureaucracy
booking a birthday party at Murphy Field is not a town board issue. It clearly needs to be,
Activities in
the
parks.
things that raise to that level, in my view, should be few and far between. So, let's just put those thinking caps on for our next meeting and, base whatever decisions we come up with the reality that it's a one part-time person issue. And we don't want to overcomplicate for town residents the use of our parks. And we certainly don't want to put in fees that hamper the reconstitution of a Tuxedo Little League or something along those lines. So if it's a true town organization, Boy Scouts, things like that, not commercially profitable.
not a carnival.
Not a carnival, or there were baseball leagues that were using our fields that clearly were not
Oh.
non-for-profits, okay? They were fee-based, profit. All the employees that worked there got salaries, and so that was not a town entity as it is written in the code now. But again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's do our homework and reschedule this for possibly the next meeting or whatever you guys deem reasonable.
I have a
Can I
question.
ask-
Have we looked at what civil service says the duties of a director of Parks and Rec
Sure,
is
there's a job
versus-
description, absolutely,
Right,
absolutely.
as opposed to what we have now.
Yeah.
So we have to decide,
Put that
when
in
are we
the
gonna go
discussion
there?
packet,
Yeah.
yeah. So can we close this topic for now?
I
I
think
have
Deidre had
I have
something
a
else she
question,
wanted to
just
ask.
directionally, for discussion next time, of course. But I just feel, just fundamentally would like to understand what we believe the goals and objectives are of the Recreational Advisory Committee. My view, and it, again, it's my view, that committee would be not just advisory, but also actionable. So that should they decide that they wanted to do, say, an event, that it just doesn't go to the one part-time person in the department, and they go, guess what, we have a great idea, why don't you go do that? It's that if they have an idea, they also develop an actionable plan and help to execute that plan. That to me would be directionally what I view a recreational advisory committee to do. So if we just think it should be advisory and not attach the tasks of organizing, managing, or, getting volunteers to help, that's different than what I envisioned. So I just want the opinion of the board is directionally where are we going with this?
Well, I think, I have a thought. So I'm thinking that actionable to a point, but I think that I mean, they're still advisory. So I think that they're actionable to a point, but I think they still report to us. They're advising us, not that, I see it more as, they would help, they would create volunteers and things like that, but I don't think that's more of a job of a commission, which is not what this
Yeah, I
is.
guess maybe I think
job
more
of
of
what?
a commission.
A commission, the difference
Right.
between a commission and a board is that a commission has authority to do things. I think the board needs to come to us for
Well, either
authority.
way, I would think they have to come to us. I guess the issue is we have a part-time person and putting 5 people, giving them ideas without having them
Well,
be able to do anything.
I think that
we
they
as the
would.
board, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It would be actionable in that they would help, I think.
Well, if the advisory board sees their job as just making up the to-do list for the rec director, obviously that's ridiculous,
No,
Yeah. We don't have staff for that.
Well, they may not know that. We have to be clear on that. I think that's fair.
Well, I think the current
everybody.
code is, the first two is what I think is just coming up with ideas and handing them off to
Yeah.
who knows who. It says, all matters relating to planning, policy formation, programming, legislation, and use of park and recreation facilities, acquisition of lands for park and recreation, including coordination with other town boards, agencies, and officials. I think that's just too much. But then it goes, C and D are more like that, recreation
But
programs.
But this is an advisory board, so this is the scope of topics that they're empowered to advise on.
Right.
I just think
I
it's
guess,
too much.
yeah, I
Well,
guess
that's-
yeah.
That's a conversation that we can have that we're not gonna have today. To
Right.
your point, the town board is empowered to make any committee we want.
Right.
So you come with a great idea, I wanna have a Christmas concert,
Right, you could-
great, we love the idea, hit the
Well,
bell right on that cap.
hello.
I know you did it, that's
Yeah.
why I'm using the
Yeah.
example, but.
Yeah.
But, so, I agree, we need to have, yes.
Just we
there
need a
needs to be-
format
we need
so
to
that
have
it's
a format
understandable
that,
for
and
everybody involved.
Yes.
I just want to avoid what Ken just said, is everybody having great ideas and then everyone being disappointed that it didn't happen.
Howard's about to tell me
That's
that
all.
I said something wrong.
No, not at all. But I think you're all, I think you're getting hung up on the advisory nature of this group. And what you don't need advisors, you need workers. You-
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
maybe,
That's my
maybe what you
point.
need is a recreation team, not an advisory board or any sort of commission. You just need team members that I presume are volunteers, because I don't presume you're proposing to pay. So if you're dealing with a volunteer group, can only expect so much from them because, you know, they have life issues that they have to deal with. So it's to have, it's kind of a cross between a team and a friends group. Right? It's not really an advisory board where, you know, they're to sit around and come up with ideas or to go out and get money. It's really just to help do the work.
Well, I think we could start some of that. We have town events that we already have on the calendar and, you know, start recruiting volunteers to help out with that. Me personally, I wouldn't assign anybody to an advisory board that's never shown up to volunteer for anything. You know, because then you're just really empowering somebody to make up your own to-do list, which to me is nonsense. I mean, we could start out with our current, we now have a rec director, right? We could start out with the events that she and the board of people who are working with her are currently planning. See if we can get some people to show up and start to volunteer. And yeah, Maria's pointed to things like Family Fun Day, movie nights, fishing derby, plein air, concerts. Okay, you know, as Kathleen starts to organize some of those events, you know, she could recruit volunteers. And to me, that's the best way to find out who's going to be a real contributor to whether you call it advisory board, volunteer support board, recreation committee, whatever. You know, you're only as good as if you show up and actually lift your end of the couch.
And one of the things
I
that
don't
I
know what
thought,
happens.
I mean, one of the things that I thought was important is that they are sort of the eyes and ears, both of the rec director and also of the town. If they, you know, we're not in all parts of town and at all times, to say that, you know, they've noticed something in, you know, Powerhouse Park that needs to be, you know, looked at or whatever. They also, if they're all in different sections, they can bring that up to us to look. So it's not just, or if, like, you know, if they come up with an idea about, you know, programming or whatever, it's like a liaison between the community and the department, the recreation department and the board. So that's the way I look at it.
All right, I'm going to try to rein this in, and certainly a discussion that will continue. It's good that we got it started again. So we're at the monthly reports. I'm actually going to start out with the supervisor's report for a change.
Don't we
When
have
are we
to do
doing the
the
discussion
energy
on
audit?
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, be sorry, that's exactly true. And more of a reason to rein in our conversation. So we wanted to discuss an energy audit. We did receive one proposal from Daylight Savings. We did have a meeting with the representatives from the New York Power Authority. That was you, Michelle, myself. Can you remind me?
And Bill Lemansky.
And Bill Lemansky, right. Bill's not here this evening.
He might be,
Oh, yeah, Bill.
I think that's him.
Oh, yeah, Bill is on.
Eddie Bill will do.
Yeah.
There he is.
So, I mean, really, this discussion is really just to set the groundwork for considering multiple proposals, but we did receive one from the Daylight Savings Corporation. So Michelle, maybe you could just set this up as to what are these energy audits and what are we trying to accomplish here?
So we decided to focus just on town hall, and Bill Lemansky, who in his previous careers at one time worked for New York Power Authority, did take his own initial assessment of the building and came up with, you all received his report. And so we're basically looking to have a company that comes in and tells you how much energy you're losing because of windows or lack of insulation, analyzing the heating systems, air conditioning systems in the building, and coming up with recommendations on what you could do. We have a very old boiler downstairs, or it's not downstairs, it's outside in that shed there, that needs to be replaced at some time. And so they'll analyze what we have, how long our systems can last, but also how much we would save if we upgrade now. And so it would be for heating and cooling, and it would be an action plan that we would take on over time. Like right now, we know we need a new heating system and air conditioning system. So we could do that right away. It might make sense to also do the foam insulation in the attic. So it's just kind of an overall picture of what needs to be done to save money and improve our heating and cooling systems.
So after our meeting with NIPA, I forget the gentleman's name, but they promised us a proposal. and
Yes.
I haven't seen any correspondence from them.
No,
You?
well, I spoke after you had to leave, and I spoke to him. I said, if it's available for Monday, then we could, all take a look at it Monday. But if not, I told him there's another meeting on the 22nd. We just would need lead time to be able to look it over. So I have, I know we'll have it for the
So
May 22nd.
what we're trying to do is get comparables. So in page 3 of the
Daylight savings.
daylight saving time proposal, they basically lay it out. They talk about an ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit. That doesn't mean a hell of a lot to me, but I do obviously can read the 6 bullets that they have here as to what that entails. I think from having participated in the NIPA presentation and reading the daylight savings time proposal, the main difference I heard from NIPA was that they actually would take it to the next step if we responded positively to their recommendations to actually manage the project. And they have approved contractors that are already New York State certified or approved contractors, so eliminates the bidding process. And that the fee for the analysis would be deferred and incorporated into a contract if we went ahead, and that they would offer us an à la carte kind of options. If you did the windows, if you did the HVAC, et cetera, if you did the insulation and the analysis. So the analysis part seems to be similar between the two, but I don't know if you go back to daylight savings time, do they have the expertise and the manpower to actually follow up with the project management?
They
So
are
if they
just
don't,
the energy audit.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real equal comparable, but that's my take on it.
Well, it would be that they would provide the audit and give us a list of options and suggested course of action and prioritize the items. But what NIPA would be able to do is to actually design a system. Because they said that, well, Bill said when he was checking it out, we have like a parallel system, and there's a lot of different thermostats, and we have to make sure that the heating thermostats are turned off before it switches over to the cooling. And so
Right.
you could get an updated systems that NIPA would actually design or help design. And they would, it's kind of a soup to nuts, right? That's what we kept saying.
There are 2 components. The first is doing the audit, right, which is to come through and figure out where we can make improvements to our systems that at the end of the day will save energy. And why do we care about saving energy? Because saving energy is saving money. So
And it's good for the environment.
that's a nice bonus. The improvements can very quickly pay for themselves in the cost savings of energy costs. That's the audit part. And what I would expect from whoever we get that from is exactly that analysis, what we're using now, what we can save, what sort of systems we would need to buy to get that savings, and what the payback period would be. Then we can pick and choose what we want to do. And that's a question of a physical plant improvement RFP process. If, you know, I lost the acronym. The guys whose proposal, NIPA, if NIPA can give us that part too, great. If not, well, you know, we'll find somebody else who can.
So what
Well,
you're
we
saying
would
is,
have-
I'm sorry.
No, we would have to manage it ourselves if we only go with daylight savings. They give us a report, and then we have to go out for the RFP, we have to
Yeah.
manage the project, whereas NIPA would actually have somebody actually overseeing it.
Right, but,
From,
and we would be
and
paid,
designing.
and we would be paying them for that.
sure,
Right,
of
but the
course.
difference,
Yeah, that's it.
how they presented it though, Jay, they basically would fold that expense in because now, you know, we've paid for a lot of the work that the project manager would have had to do. And I kind of like the idea that they would do the whole package. And after the energy audit, you're under no obligation to do that. And so to me, that kind of puts you at the same place as the daylight savings thing would be, but they don't even have the option to do the project management and carry it through. That's
Well,
the attraction in my mind.
which is fine, although I am, you know, as an engineer, I'm always a little suspect of the guy who says, yeah, I'll tell you what the problem is, and I'll give you a deal on fixing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, NIPA is not just any contractor, granted. But more importantly, we haven't seen the proposal yet, so.
Right,
we
yeah, I
have
think
very
we
little to
really,
talk about.
yeah, and they're not the contractor, they sub it out.
Right, of course, so, you know, but we would hire either one of our consultants or another consultant to put the package together and then sub it out. I mean, it's just,
Oh, we could do that, sure, we could have Sean or somebody prepare the RFP with Howard and do all of that, but we wouldn't have to go through the RFP process because they would take care of that. So there's a lot they would, and the design of the system, because Bill, if you want to add, if we forgot anything from our conversation, but you were talking about how you found this parallel design system and,
Yeah, there's a piping header that encircles the building or a major part of it. And a lot of the individual radiators are piped in parallel to that. So there's a number of the radiators have individual controls. So you can adjust the heat on an individual space basis, which is kind of an interesting design. I've never seen one like that, but it was installed, I assume, when the building was renovated, however many years ago that was. So that's what that issue is.
Well, one of the things that you pointed out, Bill, that's critical to, first of all, having equal based proposals. This one here cites the building square feet at 7,400. I believe your probably more on-site field measurements came to just under 6,500. So that number is important because from what I understand, that's what generates the cost analysis of the energy audit, price per square foot. So we kind of need to nail that down to make sure the audit estimate prices are real.
Yeah, let me just make one point relative to the square footage. That approximate 6,500 foot that I measured is to the exclusion of the roof cupola.
Okay.
Now that, if you add that footage into the 6,500, you're roughly at around 7,500 square feet. Now,
Okay,
I don't
so
know, I don't know
they're
how,
okay with that number then, right?
well, I mean, that roof cupola, I don't know what's inside that space. I doubt if it's heated. I don't think it's usable space. I don't even know if you could gain access into it. I couldn't get on the roof, so I don't know. But I don't think it's usable space. So for practical purposes, I would go with 6,500 square feet.
And I'm sure if in the field they came back and said, hey, it's really 7,500, they wouldn't hesitate to tell us that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they would, particularly if it's dollar intensive.
So, unless people have questions about what we've been handed from Daylight Savings Company, I think we really need to wait to get NIPA's. And is there any possibility of identifying a third interested party, or?
I did reach out to another, it's like Daylight Savings. They do just the energy audit. They're up in Albany, and they weren't really interested. But I believe, Howard, since it's only going to be around $6,000 for that part of it, we don't really have to go out to 3 companies, do we?
Well, you could just ask 3 companies, and if only 2 of them respond, you're
Right.
okay.
And would this be considered consulting, which, to my understanding, has less of the procurement policy regulation, or is the dollar amount what we're at anyway? So
The
really
dollar, right, the dollar amount's governed in the first instance, and you're well below the threshold
right, okay.
for professional services.
So I mean, we want to try to get 3 quotes just for comparison and make sure we got as many choices as possible, but that you've reached out to another company and they basically were not interested.
Just because of the distance, to come down. But I think the basis for all of these estimates is square foot. It's dollar per square foot. So, a dollar amount square foot. So, I could certainly go back to them and say, it's 6,500 square feet to the company in Albany. Do you have a basic dollar amount that you charge per square foot?
Well, clearly the next step is to make sure NIPA gets us something
Oh,
this
they will,
week.
they will.
And if NIFA's doing a lot more things, then that number might be different, or the audit is the same.
Oh, it'll be a larger number, but we'll get more services for it, so we just have to decide that we want those extra services.
Okay, so with your blessings, can we move on from discussion item number 1 about the energy audit?
Yes, yes,
We have until the 22nd, this is
Yeah.
the next meeting, but let's make sure NIPA doesn't give it to us on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Or
no.
we're discussing it in
Yeah.
June.
I did tell them, as I said, that we need, sufficient lead time to analyze it.
So,
So the next thing is the
next item
SAM
is
grant.
really about highway equipment. And I asked Howard to draw up a resolution based on a request from Highway Superintendent Rob Dolbaum for a Ford F-250 and a spreader. Did I have that right? I'm not sure I have that in front of me, Rob.
For the SAM grant?
The
Well,
SAM
yeah,
grant,
but
but,
I'd like to separate the notion of the SAM grant for a minute and just talk about the equipment, and we could talk about the SAM grant, but, as you and I asked you today, Rob, I think you have 3 requests for, an F, and so Michelle and I, when we were discussing this on Friday, just wanted to be sure that the, pickup, I think it's a Ford F-250 with the spreader, and that you got a quote from Healy, and I do have that here. Excuse me, I got too many papers on the
Did
desk
that
here.
let's see, I'm trying to think where that is.
It's in other business, you've got the important bits.
50.
Page
What's
9.
there? Well, that's the resolution, yeah, right, the amount, the amount.
Okay, I have it in front of me. So Rob, you submitted an invoice from Traffic Safety for the basic spreader package. It's a bunch of peripherals, but
Right.
we'll just call it the spreader package, which had a total of just over $13,000. And you had a quote that Travis went out and got from Healy Brothers for a 2022, excuse me, Ford F-350 Super Cab, but also has a Western 8-foot plow, so it comes with a plow as well.
Correct.
And so that total price was $65,447. So my question to you today was, on the scale of need, this, maybe you just tell us, where does this stand, this request?
I have two trucks that we need. One's an F-250 and one's an F-350. One's a dump truck, one's a pickup, to replace a dump truck and a pickup that we need. As far as another 250 we can use, but it's been the SAM grant for the last 9 years, and we haven't gotten
So
anywhere.
here's what I'm trying to do now. Separate the SAM grant notion.
Right.
Right now, I'd just like to talk about what the town's needs are, and then
It is.
we'll figure out as the town board how we get the money to pay for it.
Okay, I need a 250 pickup with the spreader and the plow, and a 350 dump truck with the spreader and a plow.
So this quote that Travis got is for a 350.
That's the 350 dump truck.
So, this is for the dump truck.
Correct.
So these two don't necessarily go together, the spreader and the 350.
Yes, they do.
They do?
Spreader, each truck that we buy gets a spreader, a plow, and the truck.
Oh, so they all get the same outfit, basically?
yes.
Okay, understood.
Let me go back to first principles.
Sure.
So what's wrong with the one you got now?
Well, it's got 100 and something thousand. You guys should all.
I have
Yeah, we
that
have
mileage.
the,
report.
I understand, I've seen them before, I just want to articulate it.
It's going to cost us more to maintain it than it is to buy it.
So what year is that one? I have the list in front of me.
06,
The
The
Ford
06.
F-350 has 119,000 back in March.
and the 08 is the next one on
The 08, almost the exact same mileage,
right.
120,000 miles.
With maintenance and repairs over the next year, we're going to spend a lot more in maintenance and repairs to maintain it than to replace it.
And we budgeted to purchase these vehicles.
But the money's budgeted, yes.
To lease it, right, not to purchase.
5-year lease, $44,000 payment, 5 years.
And then we own it, it's at least owned.
And we lease to own, or whatever the payment is. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Kerry had the numbers.
Yeah, she sent the lease, but, and okay, I know, tell me when to talk
Okay.
about what we need to
So-
do for the SAM grant.
So I'll summarize and you could fill in the blanks because
Okay.
we spoke for hours about this.
Okay.
It
Now,
was
wait
an
one
hour
second.
and
We can,
Yeah.
a additional 250 we could use because we took our sewer truck and used that as a service vehicle. So we don't no longer use the sewer truck, but we could use an additional pickup if the board sees. it.
Right, okay, so I'm hearing, Rob, there's an absolute need for a 250 and a 350. Both of them would get this package of plow, spreader. That's a typical hookup for that size of a truck.
Correct.
Okay, and so we're trying to retrieve money that goes back to Jen Metzger days as far as.
No,
No,
Even
Before
before, okay, that makes it even
Bonnie.
more ridiculous, but okay,
for
fine.
me.
Okay, apparently.
For me.
You know, it's biblical in its dating, so it goes back a ways.
Sure.
So of course, we're interested in trying to recoup that money. But it's been explained to me that the only way we can apply that is through a purchase, not a lease to own.
Right.
Okay, so we've established that you need this equipment. And I'm also wondering, you know, this is a quote that was given in February or March, let me see, February 10th. Not even sure if this truck is still available, but it seemed like a pretty good deal, and it's a 2022, probably it was, end of the year.
It is available.
It is available.
It was built, the truck is built, cabin, chassis. They're working on putting the rest of the equipment.
Okay, so you clearly need this, you need it for winter. With procurement and supply chain and all that crap, I'm thinking, if we need this truck, we need to get it. We need to buy it, which would also give us what we need to apply for our reimbursement, because that's how SAM grants work. It's reimbursement, not, and so I see no reason to hesitate purchasing this one truck, and then we'll figure out, that gives you the tools to start working with Senator Skoufis's office, which is what I understand from having read your email train, which I have here, that the person from DASNY was saying, please work with the senator's office. Is
Right,
that?
yeah, which I've been doing, yeah.
Okay,
and I'm
so
seeing him on
I'm not
Thursday.
seeing any reason why we would delay this
There's-
purchase and possibly lose the
I need
inventory.
I need to explain something. So the thing is that yes, I agree with you, but well, everything you said, there's one little hiccup here is that the original SAM grant was awarded for 2 dump trucks, which Rob would like to change the purpose of the grant to this truck and spreader and plow. So that's where that's what I've been working on for, I don't know, 6 months to a year, so. But it's now before the Senate Finance Committee in Albany. And Senator Skoufis is doing his best to move it along. But we don't have approval yet for the new purpose. So, if there's, if I could just, I didn't realize you wanted to do a resolution to purchase it tonight. If I could at least have tomorrow to call DASNY and Skoufis's office and find out, is it okay if we purchase this now before we get approval?
But my point would be, Michelle, that we're gonna need to buy another one anyway, so, first of all, I would make sure that Senator Skoufis understands, this was a $75,000, which is not gonna buy 2 dump trucks. I wouldn't
Well,
even
right.
buy one.
It would have bought 2 when it was originally.
Yeah, right.
Way back when.
Yeah, when a horse was a horse. Right, okay. Right.
So, but
So
I
when-
get, sorry.
In today's world, I don't know what it's like to try to change, because we purchased vehicles in the past, and then it was, well, you leased them, so you have to make an extra payment, and we had made it, and it never went anywhere with the thing.
Yeah, it clearly says that SAM grants cannot be
Altered.
reimbursed for leases.
Right.
So the thing is, if we approve this purchase now, before we get the approval, I don't know.
So,
I would
wait a minute.
like
If you-
I would like to make a
if
couple of
you-
phone calls to
If
find
you
out if
purchase
it's
it
okay.
now,
Okay, let's take turns. Okay, go ahead,
All right.
Rob.
if
Go
you
ahead.
purchase it now, you purchased it, you don't lease another one.
Yeah,
You only lease 1 truck. You don't lease 2. So you either buy it outright and purchase it, and then hopefully they give us the money back, or you put it on the lease program with the other one for 5 years. So you purchase it, you have it, you don't
So
lease it.
you do have the
So
option.
You don't
maybe we
lease the truck.
lease this one
If we
and
lease
then
this one-
wait.
If we lease this one, we won't get paid back,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
If we
Yes.
purchase this one, we will either get paid back
Or
or we
not.
won't.
Right.
If we purchase this one and they say, yeah, that would have been great, guys, but you bought it before we gave you the grant,
Exactly.
then you know what? We'll buy another one.
That's right.
Because
And
it's
then
free
this one-
money.
Yeah, this goes to the lease.
But.
Or it doesn't go to the lease. We have the money to buy it. It's in
this
the
has been
budget.
going on for way too long, and I totally
The
am
worst thing-
against delaying. Now we have a quote,
Right.
an inventory, a truck that's ready. I mean, this goes on when we were talking about refurbishing the tennis court. Every time, this quote is probably good for another 5 seconds, and then the truck is gone.
And again, what's the worst thing will happen? We'll buy another 350 instead of a 250, but it's free money.
But then I have to go back and it was this specific thing,
Right.
What
quote that I
did you give to,
submitted.
but what did you submit as a
I
quote?
submitted these two quotes.
Okay, so hopefully when we buy it, they're gonna go, okay, and send us a
But
scoop.
I know, but I just don't know if we purchase it before we get approval.
I got that point, believe me, I've heard it, and I'm just trying
Can
to
we
be
just wait
respectful.
a
No,
week?
I don't believe in the waiting anymore, that's I don't have anything to add, I don't believe in waiting anymore. I think we should get the damn truck.
I just hate to give up the $75,000.
Well, I don't think we are, that's not a condition that, after 7 years or more, you know.
Why do they have to know we bought the truck tonight? Why can't you?
Oh, we'll be submitting the paperwork.
You have
need
the
to do a
paperwork.
resolution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
You need to
paperwork.
share, you need to submit a
Government.
resolution, yeah.
I don't see us losing anything. I think Senator Skoufis's
You're using
office.
old rules.
Yeah, I work on my own rules.
I mean, is there any way we can approve the purchase, but
But it's a maybe? No.
no, I mean, just see if we can wait a week, keep the quote, or, I don't know.
I don't,
mean,
this is the state,
Wait,
I mean, this is the,
Proving language.
This is-
I don't believe the truck is finished anyway. Because the cab and chassis comes, they have to finish the truck.
So if you think there's no danger in losing this truck, is that what you're telling me?
In a week.
Well,
It'll be
not-
2 weeks,
it'll
because
be
we're not
2
having a
weeks.
special meeting to come back for this truck.
We've been waiting 9 months. It's an ordered truck, and we've been waiting 9 months for that.
It's ordered, so we're kind of on the hook for it
Okay.
already.
Well, we can always let it, but it's an ordered truck. It takes almost a year to get a truck.
Oh,
That's
so
my
maybe we
point.
should just buy it.
So if we put off,
I-
then I gotta go through the whole thing again. It's another year. Now I gotta deal with.
Yeah, no.
Well, I have enough information. I'd just like to survey. I mean, can we move forward in this, is your opinion that we have to wait another week? I'm ready to vote on this.
We need a truck. I would agree that we should buy the truck and wait on the second truck, see if we can get approval on the second truck, but we need a truck, and in 9 months.
the process is just, you don't understand the process.
I do
It-
understand the
it's-
process.
It's been such a headache for me since we started this.
Well, we're not changing the
And-
equipment. You're gonna go to Senator Skoufis. It's the same invoices. And
It's
you're
not gonna be the same if we go in for another truck. I mean, I didn't know we were gonna do the resolution to purchase it tonight. If you could see if the quote's still good for a week, and if I could get a sense, and if you could do a resolution to purchase a truck, but not purchase it,
That's
up
not
to
a
a certain
resolution.
amount, up to a certain amount. I don't know. I mean,
No,
I just
because
hate to lose the
I have to tell you,
$75,000.
when we've done the ARPA, things, we actually have to send them the resolution. It's part of the documentation. So, yeah.
I'm going back to my original ask. I mean, I'm trying to put this resolution out there. You could tell me no, and we won't do it, but I'm ready to vote yes.
I don't know, if maybe Howard, can we do anything contingent upon, or just, I don't.
How long are you gonna
I
wait?
just, I can try and get well, the legislative session ends June 1. So we've got 3 weeks, but I could try and, I'm meeting with Senator Skoufis on Thursday to discuss a bunch of things. And
It just
I
seems
can find
unreasonable that this committee would be worried about what freaking truck we're buying. They authorized $75,000 10 years ago. I think the last thing they're gonna be going is, well, I don't know, you asked for this truck and you want this truck. This is the paperwork. Either we're gonna get the $75,000 or we gotta move on after 10 years of waiting for it. That's how I feel.
Well, I don't think the grant money is, if you have to wait for the grant, they can't be asking you for the VIN number of a vehicle that you hope to purchase.
well, it's a reimbursement grant.
I know, I know. And so the form that they sent, that you emailed, has two parts to it. And one part says, have you already purchased the vehicle? If so, what's the VIN number, et cetera? If you haven't, here's different information to submit. So the form seems to indicate that you can have already purchased the vehicle.
Does the.
Right, but the
does the-
purpose hasn't been approved.
But, right.
Well, the
hasn't been approved, but
purpose
That's fine, because
was
we're buying.
was a vehicle.
No, the purpose was 2 dump
Understand,
trucks.
but, and what we're now asking for them is to change the purpose of the grant to buy a particular model of truck. What did we tell them we were gonna buy?
I sent them this. They
But-
asked for the specific estimate.
Okay, so that's the
Quote.
specific estimate, so that's the quote, good, that's what we wanna buy. That, fine, that's what we're gonna buy. They'll either say, great, here's your money, or they'll say, sorry, even though our form says you could submit this after you bought it, we're not gonna pay for the one you already bought. And then we will take this and we'll get Healy and Safety, give me another one of these
For another truck that Rob
for
needs.
another truck that Rob needs.
And
I don't see
with
it.
all the sewer responsibilities we have now, I think the sewer department needs a new truck.
Could use a truck because we use.
Yeah,
you're
we're gonna
using
be
it for
managing that thing for the next century.
But that's
So-
okay, that's still the highway department.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'd like to move something forward, but
I mean,
that's
Okay.
me.
I mean, I'll still work on it, but I don't,
You know-
you know, I just hate to lose this money.
well, we got 3 more weeks, right? We're not buying the truck between now and then. We're just authorizing
Well,
its purchase.
that's what I asked. If we could, I
No,
mean,
not conditional, it's just the process will take a few weeks anyway, so you'll get your time.
that's what I want to
regardless.
make sure. that
Okay, but
we're
no, there is
not
no making sure
signing any
because, no,
contract.
we would be moving forward as soon as possible. Does anybody need any more information? Because you could either vote yes or no, and we'll either do it or not, I don't know. I put a motion forward.
Okay, fine.
I don't know why this is so
What's
controversial.
the motion? Sorry, we've had a discussion, we haven't had a motion.
Okay, now let me get it together.
What's that?
Where
Right
is
here.
it?
Oh,
It's
okay.
on
You can
the
read it,
packet.
Jay.
I'll read it.
Thank you.
It's not-
Whereas it is necessary to purchase certain equipment for the efficient operation of the town highway department, and whereas the town highway department has evaluated alternative vehicles and has determined that a model year 2022 Ford F, I only got a 50 here, what's the number in front of 50?
So 350.
350.
Ford 350 with an 8-foot plow meets its requirements, and whereas such a vehicle and plow assembly is available to the town to purchase off of a New York State bid contract from Healy Brothers in the total amount of $65,447.50, which price includes sales price of the vehicle and the Western 8-foot plow. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the purchase of the
Aforesaid.
the aforesaid vehicle with plow assembly for an amount not to exceed $70,000.
Yeah, we built in some,
NBA for the resolve that the funds.
And be it further resolved.
And be it further, thank you. Not be it further, the resolve that the funds for the purchase shall come from account designated DA 8785.60.
9785.0.
Sorry, my dyslexia again. 9785.60. I guess I make that motion.
And then we have, okay, that's for the truck, and we separated the spreader just in case it needed to be separated.
Okay. What, you want?
Right, so we seconded, I seconded.
Seconded by.
Okay, I have a question though.
Yes.
Are we in this resolution purchasing it and not leasing it as?
Purchase.
Okay, it does
Purchase
say
certain
purchase, but,
So they'll, to
Carrie had
purchase,
sent us an email about the lease,
we are
that we were
purchasing,
leasing it.
we are purchasing this vehicle.
So we're purchasing it with the intent to submit it for the SAM grant reimbursement.
Well, we're purchasing it so that
That's
we get the
outright.
equipment, but yes, we're gonna use this receipt to
To
submit.
submit for,
To
yeah,
try to
so
get-
both because it's needed and also to submit it for reimbursement with the SAM grant with an alternate use.
But what I'd also point out to Senator Skoufis's office is, this is way more in alignment with the funding that we were offered of $75,000, which does, you know, if we're reimbursed, then we're truly reimbursed. So that should also help strengthen the rationale, not to mention the fact that this has been going on forever.
But yes, but this is a
Well,
purchase,
I
not a
mean, I
lease.
was the one that resurrected it. It would have died if I didn't.
I appreciate it, no, and that's why I went to this effort over the last 48 hours to try to pull this together. And I think we're all on the same, we're all pulling in the same direction, so.
Yeah,
I know your point, I do, I know your point. So there's a
Well,
motion
I think
before
we
the
have to
board.
do the spreader
No, we'll
as the
do this,
second
no, we'll
motion.
do this,
Yeah.
we gotta vote on this one first.
First one,
Otherwise,
first.
if we're not doing
Oh, yeah,
this one,
yeah.
there's no sense doing the spreader anyway, because they really do go together. So, you wanna call for a
I
vote?
will call for a vote, and I guess since there's some contention, I will call for a voice vote.
Okay.
We'll just start down the end of the table. Ms. Deirdre, or do you want
Aye.
to pass?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
And I will vote aye. So 4 ayes and 1 nays.
You can go to the spreader.
Now to the spreader. Whereas it is necessary to certain equipment, here's necessary to purchase certain equipment for the use by town highway department, and whereas said equipment includes a hopper spreader to be installed on a highway department vehicle, to wit, the Ford 350 truck above, and whereas the equipment is available for purchase pursuant to a New York State contract from Traffic Safety and Equipment Company Incorporated of Mahwah, New Jersey, at a price of $13,057.50, including installation, pump, lights, and accessories. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves the purchase of this equipment at a cost not to exceed $15,000. And be it further resolved that the funds for the purchase shall come from an account designated DA 9785.60. May I have a second?
Second,
Somebody's writing this down, right?
we have an amazing town clerk.
I think we need to change, we need to add words here and there.
I'm sure Marissa did that. I saw her diligently listening.
I'm going to say that this is, poor transcription, Adobe to Word kind of stuff going on. All those little nuts. Any other discussion?
Yet.
Okay, then I will call for a vote as well. Ms. Deirdre?
Aye.
Ms. Rhea?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, and I would vote aye for that as well. So 4 ayes and 1 nays.
You got your truck there,
So long as you buy it,
Please.
not lease it.
don't lose it. This is a purchase.
So the second, can I ask a question now?
Yes.
So the second truck that is needed is a 250? So it's a different quote than the one that we're submitting for this one for reimbursement?
Right, but no, you're correct. It's a different vehicle. So what I'm going to say is let's hold off on that one if we can for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see.
There's no
How's this
resolution
come?
for that one.
We'll
See
see.
if we can get the SAM grant for this truck that we just purchased, that's a purchase,
Right,
a lease, right?
correct.
So, see if we can get the grant.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
We
if-
should cover more than enough, for the grant money, and I don't know if they, how, because the grant's written pretty tight there. It was for 2 trucks and 2 things, we couldn't deviate from the grant. So I know Michelle's been trying hard to go around that, So let's see where it goes.
We'll see where it goes. The worst
I'm
will
going
happen
to
until.
continue to work on it. I just disagreed with the cart before the horse.
But the worst thing will happen is you'll get a second 350 instead of a 250.
Well, that's a whole nother process, and we'll have to wait till January of next year, because the session's over.
There'll
That's
be,
3
it will
weeks.
be this, right.
It won't even be able to get to the Senate
We won't
Finance
ask for
Committee
another
till next
250.
year.
I'm
We'll
gonna
buy
move it
another
forward,
350.
yeah.
Anyway, just so you know,
Got
believe
it.
me, I do nothing but get headaches from all of this.
All right, I'm gonna go to my monthly report, because that's what I'm gonna do. Now, let's go through all these papers.
These monthly reports, you wanna-
Now I'm gonna start with
Okay.
mine. Change it up so you guys don't fall asleep. Of course it's on the bottom. Tuxedo Town Supervisors update. And I could send this to you, Mary, just so you know, and Marissa. No need to hang on every word.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome, Mary. I'll do that as soon as the meeting's over. On Monday, May 8th, well, this is a report for Monday, May 8th, but it actually happened today. Highway Department site, Long Meadow Road, was visited by Rob Dolbaum, Highway Superintendent, Deputy Supervisor Jay Reichgott, Town Engineer Sean Hoffman, Bill Canavan from Environmental Solutions Consultant. We met with the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation Site Monitor Wesley Salas. We discussed the next step in the remediation of the debris materials that we have been processing for the last 2 years. We're trying to avoid further expensive material sampling and are looking for beneficial uses for distributing the processed materials. The site monitor, Wesley Salas, to my memory, said that he would consider our requests, and I'm anticipating a response from him within a week or so. He didn't give a definitive date, but that's how he left it off. He said to us, basically, he doesn't see any reason why we couldn't move the materials to make room for the next year's screening, but we're gonna wait anyway, just because it take you a few weeks to
To get the equipment.
align it anyway, so.
But he did mention about the testing,
Right.
that we don't have to go so deep in the weeds, the analytical testing, right? He said it was basically.
He said that, but he also didn't, make any promises. So at the same time, he said, before we move if we're not gonna test it, before we move it on top of the dirt we've already tested, we might wanna think about that.
Well, I think we're gonna go ahead with, Environmental Solutions testing as per, he said for metals, and I forget the second thing he said, but it's a much reduced, inventory
Yeah, sure.
of
Well,
testing.
yes, although I would see how much money that saves. Most of the work in the testing is getting the samples.
Okay.
But if it doesn't cost much more to do the whole gamut, let's do
Right.
that so we don't get caught.
Right,
later.
so that everything in the back has all been tested identical.
Exactly.
That's all, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, Tuxedo LDC. 3 applications for Hamlet revitalization funds have been approved by the Tuxedo LDC Board after thorough review by the Tuxedo Planning Board. On Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023, the Tuxedo LDC Board approved the Augusta Properties Grant application for $165,682. The project was unanimously approved. The project will rejuvenate a property that is expected to attract a new restaurant and bring a coordinated aesthetic. At the Tuxedo LDC Board meeting, April 13th, 2 additional projects were approved. Tuxedo Historical Society, restoration of the historic Chase Bank building that was donated to the Historical Society. The project was approved for $101,851 in matching funds. Carlin Realty LLC, a restoration project for a historic warehouse building on the north side of Route 17 corridor. Actually, that should be on the east side of the Route 17 corridor. In the center of the Hamlet Business District, this project was approved for $104,631,000 of matching funds. All projects are funded under the 2022 Special Permit Agreement with related companies, which provided $1,100,000 for Hamlet revitalization. Tuxedo Farms LDC. As president of Tuxedo Farms LDC, the agency that owns the new sewer plant, I've been managing the coordination of the startup of the new plant and the emergency actions needed to remediate the excessive infiltration of stormwater into the system. Key to that goal Inliner Solutions, we agreed, we authorized the $62,400 agreement to begin scoping camera work necessary to analyze the storm and groundwater infiltration into the Hamlets District's collection system. That's now completed. The invoice that paid for this work is much lower than originally expected, coming in at $31,948, which is $32,252 less than projected. The sewer collection system is currently feeding a much larger anticipated amount of water into the new system. So I'll just say that the bid that we originally authorized came in at less than half, so that's real good news. A new vendor, Institutiform, has been identified to begin lining the degraded sewer pipes in the Hamlet Sewer District. Working with the town engineer, Sean Hoffman, I expect the town board will review a new proposal that will begin the relining process. And not to steal Rob's thunder, I'm sure he'll give us the details. The highway department crew, led by Superintendent Rob Dolbaum, has replaced lengths of pipe on both Mountain Road and areas within Tuxedo Park that were determined to be in need of total replacement. He will update us further in his report. Thank you. I'll turn to,
I have a question, actually.
Please, go
Your
ahead.
report. So the Tuxedo LDC, the one that's giving grants,
right,
3 applications, 3 awards, numbers in my head, right around $300,000 has been awarded. Is that right?
360.
365, okay. Which means there's something like $800,000 left to give away.
Correct.
Have we got any other applications yet?
Not yet, those are the only 3 we've received.
Okay, so.
Well, we have one that's, I'm going to send to everybody, but it's.
But we've
it's
only
no-
received 3.
Not a
We don't have,
formal.
we
We've
don't
only
have any,
received 3.
we haven't, so there are no pending applications now.
That is correct.
Okay, so just tell your friends, neighbors, and business associates,
On the Route
Tuxedo
17
LDC's got-
corridor in the Hamlet.
on the Route 17 corridor in the Hamlet, there is money for matching grants. We're giving them away, right? It's like channel your inner crazy Eddie here. For those who are old enough to know what that means.
I'm old enough.
So we need more applications so we can give away more money. I'm sorry, so they can give away more money. I'm not on that board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll pass the baton to you. Go ahead. Any
Thank you.
report to give?
I don't have much of a report. I mean, I've been attending various meetings and working with other board members on things. The only thing I will put out there, just because I just found out about this afternoon, it was a bit of a surprise. The Memorial Day Parade is starting half an hour earlier this year than it did last year. So keep an eye on the paperwork and don't show up late.
So is it 11 instead of?
So we're lining up at 11 and we're kicking off at 11:30.
Okay.
So, and that means if you get there, if you think you're getting there for 11:30, you will not be able to drive in and park. You'll have to walk.
Be there.
So, just is what it is.
Michelle
That's all I got.
Lindsay?
Well, let's see, in order of events this week, as I mentioned before to everybody, I'm meeting with Senator Skoufis to discuss state funding for climate smart projects. Also want to talk to him about solar opportunities in Tuxedo and how we could possibly get some state funding for that. Had met with, Frank Peverly's not on the call anymore, but we met with Frank Peverly and discussed the electric grid in Tuxedo and where we can add solar input through solar fields. And fortunately, there is capacity to accept solar input by the highway garage. So I will talk to him about what opportunities there are for state funding. You know, there's all this infrastructure money, Maria's talking about it too, and so I just want to see what we can get for those projects. I'm also going to talk to him about the Route 17 road diet, since he was a big part of getting Route 17 paved, what was that, about 5 years ago or so? So he's, yeah, I'm not sure if he works with transportation, but whatever he can do to help us get some of our DOT projects moving forward. And we would like, a bunch of things we've talked about already, the crosswalk at Hospital Road and road diet so that we can do some streetscaping along Route 17. And Maria's, I know, I'm sure she'll report on water infrastructure, but I'll also mention it to him while I'm there. And then on May 18th, I've been working with Deirdre on the community presentation with Burgess and Nelson Pope that she'll talk about, and May 22nd.
Saw that in Photo News.
Yep,
Yeah,
you did. As promised.
yeah, she delivers.
You got a mention on the front cover, and then I think it's on page 11 or something.
Along with Reggie's Bar.
Yes.
I wrote that too.
Yeah, quite the, yes, that's awesome. May 22nd, Marissa is having a table, and I'm gonna have a table at the high school. I'm not sure what they're calling it, a volunteer forum or something?
Community fair.
A community fair. And I'll be presenting opportunities to help the Climate Smart Task Force, because we would like to have at least 2 Saturdays at the farmer's market to distribute information. So,
I know one of their events.
Is that the evening it's a daytime presentation?
it is, yeah.
Yeah, because the evening one
Was
got
canceled.
canceled, yeah.
Oh.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
to
why I was just
move
checking
to
that.
September 22nd.
Oh, okay. But the May 22nd one is still on.
Apparently, but I would check with them.
Yeah, I would check with them. I just got
I
an
think
email
we're-
from the TPO saying that it was canceled, that it was rescheduled for
That was the
September.
one for the children.
But that's for the volunteer,
Anyway, let's not
Okay.
yeah,
confuse it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show verified.
yeah,
That's
just
it for
make
me.
sure.
Maria, and then Deirdre?
All right, so, by the way, this, the $37,000 was paid by ARPA, with ARPA money, and, which is good, because we can
Yes.
use it for that. And, okay, so on May 4th, the, grants opened for the New York State Environmental Bond Act, and that they have, some water infrastructure. Howard sent me some information. This is not money that is for now, you have to spend it, I think, and you don't get it until 2024, hopefully not like, 2034, but.
Water and wastewater?
Yes, it's there's all kinds of different things, but the one that what we could use for the infrastructure is called wastewater infrastructure category. And so the application opened in May 3rd, so we just have to get it together. The things that we need, a lot of it we already have because we did that work already. The engineering report, we have because we got it from Sean. And then this thing is called the Smart Growth Assessment Form, which is something that says this is what you've done, and then now you're going to add, whatever. So it'll be good. We can explain what we've done already with the scoping or whatever, and then where we're going forward. This is a grant also that you can reapply, if you still have work to do, you can reapply for it in subsequent years.
Was there, I'm sorry, did you mention a deadline? Was there a deadline?
There was a deadline of June 16 to submit.
Okay, thank you.
So let me know what you need.
Yep.
and we'll
We
also-
can, it's a form that's online, so I think it's not like something that we can write. So I think that we need to meet, I think.
Okay,
And
yep.
see what goes in there.
That's fine.
So-
Or do a screenshot and mail it to everybody.
Yeah,
But anyway.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you can save. I just saw it and I read around it, but I didn't actually go in the form yet. So summer camp, staffing in progress. So we have a person that has already, that is creating the the online application. There's also going to be like a paper application. We are just waiting for Forte, which is the payment system that we have, to give him the specifics, so it's all ready to go as soon as we get them to be able to pay for things, it'll go. So she has interviewed all the lifeguards or the returning, all but one of the returning counselors on lifeguards. She's doing that one tomorrow. We interviewed a person today for camp leader, and it was a successful interview, so this person will hopefully get hired within the next few days. Also, St. Mary's will have an event on May 26th at the Great Lawn. They're doing a movie called The Great Outdoors. It's on May 26th at 7 p.m. and all the monies that will be collected then will be for sending kids to camp that might not be able to afford it. So if you can't go to the event, she has a PO box. I'll give it to Marissa so that we can put it in our website. There'll be hamburgers and so on. I went to the one they did last year. It was really fun. And then I also met with the senior committee. They met on Saturday. It was really good. They met with Chief Trezino and talked a little bit about how the police can support the senior community in Tuxedo. We also talked about the library programs, which are super successful. I guess you guys are, there's not enough. They wanted them to be more frequent, and so that was good. And then we talked about this program called Neighbor to Neighbor, and we're looking at different options for people, whether there's a need for that. There's some automated ones. There's some that you get trained for by the Jewish Family Services. Yeah. So we thought they're going to, study that issue a little bit more, because it seemed like a lot of our seniors are pretty self-sufficient and, they can drive themselves and things like that. But, if they live alone, it might be good to have, other people looking in on them, make sure they're okay. And for the Memorial Day Parade, the last thing is that Kathleen has been working with the Veterans of Foreign Affairs on Bonnie to get the town a little bit more involved in the doing of this parade, because Bonnie Takeuchi has single-handedly kind of taken care of it. So, now that we have a recreation director, she's aiding in that as well. That's it.
My turn, okay. We have started doing publicity for the May 18th open meeting for the Burgess, for the presentation of the Burgess analysis. Did a little article, it did end up in the Photo News. Also, we have little brochures that we're handing out, and it's going on the website as well as email lists. We're going to be doing it twice, once before and once just before, to all of the residents and businesses that are, all the residents that are on the email list and all the businesses that are affected. So hopefully that'll be enough to get the word out. I did go to the Woodlands meeting and I did talk about it there. They had a lot of questions that weren't related to the Burgess study, but they were very happy about hearing about the new appointment for the building inspector. That was key on their list, who knew? So they were happy to hear about that, and they will be probably asking more questions, but I did tell them to give you some time to let the person be acclimated, because they do have some concerns. But
If they have concerns, don't wait.
Yeah,
Send them to the building
I'll send you a note on that and
Yep.
just let you know what they said.
Please.
Just to give you that, and just because I'll circulate it to the people at the Woodlands also, just, out of courtesy. So that was one of them. They were all very interested in also hopefully coming to the meeting about the presentation. With that said, moving on, I did go to the Hamlet and met with Rob. We spent the morning together, and we went throughout every sidewalk within the hamlet and measured it. Because one of the things that I, in my research, has discovered is that New York State DOT regulations are that the sidewalks be 5 feet. And that means from the beginning of the curb, not where the curb is, where the curb ends, to the next curb. So basically, the platform in between two curbs, the DOT, New York State, is 5 feet. There's another one that's 4 feet, but you have to, every 200 feet, add a 5-foot platform, 5 foot by 5 foot, which allows for 2 wheelchairs to pass each other. So my question to the DOT was, we have a lot of curb cuts. Would that actually mean that we could use those curb cuts to meet the standards so that we could, redo the sidewalks? And the answer is no. So, but we can replace like on like. So that is an option that we could do.
So meaning basically grandfathered in what we currently have, like on like, is that what that?
You can patch it, but you can't dig it up and replace it.
Okay.
You'd have to get a permit and it wouldn't pass. It wouldn't pass the permit because we wouldn't be able to, in certain areas, but some areas it would. The specific area that, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, the area that doesn't meet or cannot meet in its current configuration is from the Library Road. No, is that Library? Yeah, to Hospital Road. That sidewalk is 4 feet, curb to curb. However, there's no space on it to do that 5 by 5 platform. The other ones we could get away with.
There's no public space on it.
Right.
We'd
We'd have to buy space
or
from the, yeah.
from the property owners on
Right.
the inside.
Right. The other thing that we did look at is we measured where the white line on the highway goes from the white line to the curb. At some places was as small as 3.5 inches, and other areas was big as like 6 inches. But if you took a look at the curb, you can see where it's been chipped away by being clipped. So one of the things that also happened, which Rob pointed out, and I didn't even notice, is the amount of oversized trucks that were going through town. It was, amazing. I didn't notice it at first, but once he said it, I was like, oh my God, you're right, there's 6 within like 15 minutes. One of them actually was a boat that we were standing on the sidewalk, and the hull of the boat actually intruded on the sidewalk space going forward. So I did call the DOT, and they love me. I did ask them, I said, look, we went in and we actually talked to some shop owners and said, is this typical? What is this? They said that they thought it was really because the thruway had opened up their way station. And so the trucks are bypassing and going through. So I asked them if we could look into, in tandem, doing our way station when they do their way station, so that over time, they'll realize that they can't avoid going through a way station if there's one open on the thruway.
You said oversized trucks, though. That's oversized with placards and follow vehicles, or just big trucks?
Yes,
Both,
both.
both.
But it was both.
Both.
They had the way stations open on the thruway, so they were all coming up 70.
So the
Yeah.
big trucks were,
But the oversized vehicles, yes, the barns, the sheds, the half a
The
houses,
boats.
the boats.
Right.
With the car in front and back.
right, but that route's defined by DEC.
They said that,
DOT.
but they
DOT,
said
sorry.
they would, I asked them to look into that, and they said that they basically said on the side, that's probably because nobody's looking. They said they did have to have a route that had been approved, but wink, wink, some people don't, that's basically what they said. So let's follow it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I also should talk to, and I will talk to people in Sloatsburg and see what they have to say, because it's also going through there. So they have the same problem that we do, so we're probably better together as opposed to one, not the other. So those were the big,
And then we talked about the road diet.
oh, yes, I did call about that too, thank
Right.
you.
And
So, I also called about the sidewalks. So on the sidewalks, what Rob pointed out to me is that the sinking is because of the basins And so what's happening is that sidewalks are basically getting this fault in it. And it's being caused basically because of these basins that are sinking. So I called the other department that deals with the basins and asked them about that. And they said that, yes, they did replace one that was with the sewer. And I asked them, what about the other ones? Because it really is a problem. Let's just say, let's not deal with the 4-foot piece, but the other pieces. And they said, well, it's a very gray area. They deal with it on an individual basis. They'd love to come out, but they really have many more things that they have to do. And basically, they have no money. So even if they decided that it was their jurisdiction, they wouldn't be able to get to it. It's basically what they said. So going back to the next thing is the road diet. I did call the regional director on that, and she told me she believes that there were initial plans drawn up for a road diet in Tuxedo, which would make it much easier if we wanted to pursue it, because she said we may be able to, on a temporary basis, repaint and restrip the road with a road diet on a temporary basis if there is actually a plan. She's looking into that. So that's basically the update,
Excellent.
okay?
Right, the
Questions?
That was Sandra Jobson, and I emailed her to see if she has the plan, because she was the one who met with us.
Okay. The idea was, instead of spending all that money right away and moving the curbs and doing everything, paint it. Put a painted road diet in and see how it's going to work. You could do it for a year or two and see how it's going to work before.
Plus, it'll give you the barrier that's make it
Right,
more
that'll
safe
give you-
along the sidewalk areas.
You could always reopen it if they had to.
Right.
But do it temporary with paint and see what happens. And then if it works and it's working for the town, then you can do the curbs and the sidewalks and all the rest.
Yeah, and that grant is a federal grant, which is 80%. They pay for 80% of it, and it's, the grant application is May of 2024. So we'd have to wait for that, unless we decided to paint it or something. But there you go.
Thank you. I'm in receipt of following monthly reports from the building department. March and April were sent by Deborah, and the Justice Court. Both of those are in your packet. For the department updates, I'm going to start with the town clerk.
Good evening, everyone. So New York State now allows for a one-day officiant license. So that means anyone could come and apply to officiate a marriage, and it would just be valid for that one day. It would match the names on the marriage license that the couple applied for. Has to be done all at the same municipality. So you don't have to go on that website and get ordained as a reverend if you want to marry a friend or family member. So you can come and get the one-day license. Fee is $25, and that big expense or fee gets kept by the town. So that's something that's new, and we've had some calls about it already.
Are there any other criteria, or just show up with your $25 and you can marry two people?
You come in, so the marriage license is issued first to the couple. Then after that, the officiant could come in and apply. So the names of that couple would be on their license, and it would expire as soon as that ceremony takes place. So, and it's totally legal in New York State. Town engineer Sean Hoffman has put together the bid package for the train station repair RFP. The bid opening is scheduled for Thursday, May 18th at 1 p.m. Here's some upcoming events. One is at St. Elizabeth Chapel, the annual flower sale. It's on May 11th, 12th, and 13th. The Tuxedo Pollination Meadow volunteers have a meeting at the Tuxedo Park Library on May 24th at 6:30 p.m. They are asking for volunteers. They need to plant milkweed plants. They had 128 donated to them, and they're going to need some help planting those. And that specific plant attracts monarch butterflies, by the way. And another event at St. Elizabeth Chapel is on June 10th from 9 to 4. They're having a spring lawn sale, and they're asking for anyone that wants to donate items, and they will sell on your behalf. And that's all they have.
June 10th?
June 10th, yes. And I have a flyer here with the information if you would like to see it.
Robert Dolbaum.
Ready to go. Okay, first things first, I'll get the little stuff out of the way. As probably everybody has noticed, your streets are nice and clean. We've been sweeping, we probably have another 2 more weeks of sweeping, and the town will be completely swept. We're patching blacktop, asphalt throughout the town, berms, repairs, potholes, that type of stuff. Mulch, everybody knows where to get that. So we'll go on to the sewer. We've been working on the sewer repair, Mountain Road and a little bit up in the village. We were in the village last week. We had a backup in the racetrack. We've replaced approximately 95 feet of 6-inch pipe on Mountain Road. Our next step is to replace or repair around the manhole. We found a lot of water coming in from the drain from the field up there. We've blocked that off, which put the water through the side pipe, which is that black pipe that comes out down below. So Ken knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, we did a temporary, blocked it off. It slowed it down considerably. We feel at this moment we have our, there's well, let me back up. We feel at this moment that we have the pipes in that area in good repair. So we don't believe we're getting any infiltration through that. Next manhole up, we're getting a little infiltration, and I believe we have several sump pumps being pumped into the sewer system, which we discussed. We're going to have to come up with some kind of letter to notify everybody, possibly an inspection system in place and that type of thing, because yes, water's being pumped into the sewer that we believe is fresh water from sump pumps. So, and then we do the manhole. That section should be completely finished. In the village, we still have work to do in the village.
So what do you do to remediate the manhole?
We're going to we have to dig all around it, and then we have to seal it on the outside so that the water doesn't come in, because it's coming through the masonry around the bottom, but it's coming in channels that we can't even see yet or tell yet until we expose it and see what's actually there going into it. We did buy a new camera. You'll see a bill for that to replace the camera that we had, which is helping us tremendously getting sight into the lines and
Can't fix it if you can't find it.
right. And then with a locator on it so that we can try to locate pipes that we don't know where they go. And we can follow them with a sending unit that sounds, and you can follow it with sound, and we can
Oh, so
mark
it's like
it.
ground penetrating
Yes, yep.
sonar?
And the head of the camera gives off a 5.3 megahertz or whatever it
I
is.
see.
And this picks it up.
I see.
Yeah, so you can trace it. Out to 200 feet, then you're out of string and start over, But we have we're going to have some serious work in the racetrack area we're probably going to end up putting in a couple manholes because we can't find what's there, if it's there at all, so. But-
And then you'll segment
But
it.
well, that's our last ditch effort, but
But then you're breaking up a long run into various segments, which is
Correct, well,
better for the future maintenance.
into 200-foot sections.
Yeah,
The middle, the middle's located, the thing, from the middle towards south, I'm gonna go east,
right.
towards the road,
So-
the one-way road, whatever that's,
It's got about 4 different names, so
Yeah, that-
depends on
that-
which piece you're on.
that one. In between there, the middle and there, we're missing 2 manholes that we can't find, and one on the other side. So, we have to do a little more deep locating and finding and stuff, but we'll keep that. That's all on a to-do list type stuff. As long as it's running and everything's clean, we're okay for now. That's that. The dirt pile, as we talked about it, do we need a resolution for testing?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Howard would nod his head. I mean, that's gonna be,
Is that something
I
we
mean,
want
the
to?
last, sampling, my memory was in the $30,000 range or some,
25 or
25,
something?
okay.
I
But we
don't,
have an ongoing contract with these guys for that, right?
we do,
So we just have to authorize to do it again this year.
Howard,
right.
well, it'd still be a resolution.
Yeah, you still need a resolution. I'd like to take a look at the contract, make sure it's still in effect.
Rules.
And then,
Keep it
so
aside.
that we can move ahead with it, because it's May already, so we have to start moving with that, right? Then, let's see, the mulch I did, we took the time to clean up the cemetery in Arden.
I got a note from Ed Brennan in Laurel Ridge commending that, and I'm glad you're,
A lot of people seem to think that was such a great idea, and I got a lot of calls on it thanking us that we did that. It hadn't been done in a few years, and I remember the old guy that used to go up there and cut it, and I haven't seen him in a couple of years, so we took the time to clean it up because last year people were asking us if we could do that. Spent the day up there with 3 seasonal guys in Jeffrey, and everybody seems to be ecstatic about it. They're all happy about that. We do the Southfield Cemetery, we keep that on that, so, just for FYI, you know.
I went to Fort Montgomery and they had something there about the mystery that maybe one of Thomas Jefferson's,
It was in Southfield.
Yeah, that's in Southfields, yeah.
That's
but
what-
they
There was a
trying
stone,
to find the stone or something.
a little history about that.
Yeah.
I own that cemetery and donated it to the town. The cemetery proper. But you can only own where somebody isn't buried. And there
Right,
was
that's
a
what I
stone.
thought, yeah.
There was a stone that had Thomas Jefferson's daughter in there that did disappear. Yeah,
So the stone is gone.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I have a piece of it in my office, in the back.
You took it.
You're great,
Talk-
Robert.
She's
Yeah,
not-
I know.
she's not- wait a minute, I'm not related to her.
We have a grave
There's no
robber as
blood
our town
relation.
clerk.
Great.
I do, and it's fascinating. It has an article and, yeah, this is,
Oh,
I
that's
come
interesting.
across trying to organize the records, yes, come across some interesting things.
It said his illegitimate daughter was, it was a pretty big
had a lot of
stone.
those.
Yeah,
We cleaned it. Years ago, I paid,
Somebody
To
said there was
clean
an
the shed.
etching of the stone that was given to Sani, Chris Sani.
yes, and the article referenced him, and there was someone else that
King from.
didn't end
from
up
Monroe.
meeting, yeah, I'll let you read the article,
John
it's very
King from
interesting,
Monroe.
yeah. But I do have it.
Quite the debacle.
One
But
thing you
yes.
didn't mention was about the meter that you had installed to check the flow.
Oh, on the sewer, yes. We installed the flow meter. It's a portable flow meter that's been put in between our sewer plant and our pump station and the new sewer plant. It's in the manhole. No, you can't tell it's there. It does, it measures the flow of the water from our pump station, the amount of water that's being pumped daily to
So
our
we're
pump
trying to
station.
figure out, the numbers being reported on the inflow into the new plant accurate? Because they've been all over the place and,
Right. And I've contended all along that the numbers are a little,
so we're gonna verify.
so we're gonna verify.
Trust but verify.
Right. The worst case is we spend money to find out that they're accurate. That's
Need
what-
to know that
but you
anyway. You
need to
can't
know.
fix something if you don't know what's going on.
Right,
So the outflow should equal the inflow,
correct.
yeah.
correct.
So that's how
We're-
you
but
monitor.
We're the only ones putting
Right, whatever's
supposedly
coming in
putting-
has to go out.
flow into the new plant.
Right.
But.
So it's a double, it's basically a safety, you're just
Yeah, I'm just checking their
checking to
numbers.
see, right,
Right.
making sure it's
Because
the
But you
same.
spend all kinds of money.
Right, making sure it's the same.
Because I think I feel personally that there's a large discrepancy.
Uh-huh,
So-
well, that'll tell you.
So this will tell us, yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Did we put a camera down that line when we were doing camera work?
Down that line?
Between your meter and their meter,
Well, their
is there a magic
meter's in
pipe
the-
somewhere?
Their meter's in the building because the flow meter that they installed isn't working.
Oh, that's right. They were
Hasn't
gonna
been
fix
working
that.
for quite some time. We can put our camera down that line, absolutely.
Just let's see what the results are first.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, it's probably not a bad idea to camera that line when we get done flow meter.
What would you find that would be different?
My fear is something else is
Is
going
feeding
into
in?
that.
Yeah.
Right, that's the thing. If
Yeah.
if we're getting a number and they're
They're
getting a
getting a
bigger
number,
number,
where is it?
the
Yeah,
next question
yeah.
is there a magic pipe in there somewhere?
Yeah, somebody else dumping it in.
Where would it be
Yeah,
coming from? Yes.
Yeah,
Stranger
That's-
things have happened.
So that we did. Well, and we'll have they're supposed to come every 2 weeks and check the calibration and give us the results. But they said they were that it was accurate, dead on accurate, so. That's kind of what we hope for.
Anything else?
Uncle?
I'm sorry, I have a question for Marissa. Where are we with the sewer law in the state? Is it official yet?
It is not official. I checked. It's not been officially filed.
sewer law
It's
has to be
been
registered.
mailed to the state, so I can check the website before they actually mail the letter saying, yes, it's been filed. So I check it daily. And Sean Hoffman asked me to keep him updated because he's going to submit that to the DEC.
We'll submit it to the DEC, but we also need that before we start talking to people about sump pump connections and things like that.
Right.
Okay.
But we also need, the letter of some sort.
Yep.
Because I was gonna type something up, but I'm talking with Ken. I was gonna type something up and just stick it on people's doors and stuff, but, but we don't have the authority yet, so we'll wait.
Marissa, could you give a very brief update as to what Sean gave us for the train station?
Sure.
Just through your memory.
As far as the
The
bid packet
bid
and,
packet that he put together and,
yes. You want me to
So-
summarize?
well, so he did the specs,
He did, yes. He put all the specific, yep.
put together the owner's packet.
Yes, it's quite lengthy. He had it printed and bound, and I have numbered copies. So anyone that requests a copy, I have to fill out a log, so we
We
know.
have dates picked for the distribution and
Yes.
is it available now to the general public?
It will be available officially Wednesday morning. So the notice is going into the paper tomorrow. I can post the notice on our website tomorrow. There will not be an electronic version posted on our website for tracking reasons. So if an applicant requests an electronic copy, it will come directly from Sean.
Okay.
And he keeps track of that. If there's any addendums, we need to make sure that we send it to
Right.
all the applicants. So that's an easier way to track it. But I have them in my office.
Can you recall when the bids are due?
The bids are due, they can submit them up to the bid opening. So on May 18th, 12:59 PM.
so do we, when we do an RFP, do we
May
have?
18th or?
Yes.
They could, I'm sorry, Deidre.
The bid opening is May 18th at 1 PM, so they could walk in with a bid in hand right up until.
So we're distributing it on the 10th? No, yes.
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 So they basically have a week.
They have a week.
Okay.
yes.
Sean felt like that was sufficient.
Yes, he did. He has some contractors he's submitting, them
He's
directly
working
to.
with.
He's
You're right.
working with, inquiring if they're interested, and
Right.
I think he was gonna reach out to Rob as well if he had anyone.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
So,
All right.
I have a question. When we do an RFP, just like we did with the Greenway study, we started out with some idea of what we thought that the bid should be. Do we have that? Is that typical?
I'll let
or-
Howard answer that.
I'm not sure what, the
Is there a
question.
forecasted budget?
So like with the train station, for
Oh,
example, we gave the specs, but we don't tell them how much it's supposed to be, correct?
Right, that's
But
correct.
do we have a forecasted budget for our own internal knowledge?
You may, that would be something you would typically get from your engineer as, as the specs are developed.
That's certainly nothing you want to disclose to the public.
Right, no, not disclose it, but just
Right.
so that we
Yeah,
have a
well,
gauge.
what happens is when you get the bids come in, you look at them and compare them, and just like the first time we did it, that came out $217,000, we just immediately rejected it. You don't
Right.
have to accept anything.
Right.
So there's no, obligation after you circulate an RFP to actually act on it, other than to reject bids if,
I'm just
What's the
curious if
award
it's
date?
just common practice that when you put out an RFP, you have some kind of understanding of what you think the budget's gonna be.
oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
So
typically
what
you
is
would,
the budget gonna be?
Well, we're
yeah,
not
typically you would tell
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Discuss
yeah,
that now.
thank
There
you.
you go.
Okay.
That's
you
why we
trying
won't
to
be
trick
telling
that? Sorry.
yeah, typically you
You're
would tell
right.
your engineer
Well, you could
that
write
you
it on a
want
little
this.
piece of paper, just curious.
I'm sorry, Howard, please go.
No, I was just gonna say, typically you would tell your engineer whether you want a Cadillac or a Chevy.
Yeah, that's my question, really.
Yeah.
Just sort of, where are we? Yeah, okay.
Well, the
And are
specs
we
we put
waiting-
forward was basically to restore it to the condition.
Basic maintenance.
Well, I'm not bringing it up to the condition that it was at when the
When you
major
first,
renovation
yes,
was
it's
done.
just, okay. So that's maintenance, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yes.
restoring it to what it should be, maintaining
Yes,
the building.
correct. It's not
Yeah.
an
Well,
addition.
rehabilitation.
That's all I'm asking. I mean, there's
Yeah.
not anything no value added.
Oh, there
that
may
we're
be.
putting-
There are some value-added pieces.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did add, but to do correction, they needed another
that's
gutter
what-
and downspout. That's definitely added because that's what part of the problem
Oh.
was with the building. Why the back was getting deteriorated because the
Uh-huh.
water was running down the side of the building.
Well, I meant for the benefit of the community, value added to the benefit. It's like adding benches or adding, a small park in the,
No.
area, like that. That's what I'm
No,
asking.
okay, no, there isn't, there isn't.
Because I didn't read the
significant
RFP.
additional scope, if that's.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Okay,
Rob,
thank you.
I have a question for you, Rob. We talked a little bit before about perhaps, because now the season has started and people are renting the parks and so on, and it's hard sometimes to get the key to them and then get the key back. And, I know we're working on all that stuff, but one of the things that we thought it was if we could somehow have keypads that could be controlled by the person in your department that's in charge, or Marissa, or something like that. Is it possible to get some information for you to research that?
Here was my thought on the keys. That whomever is going to rent the field, doesn't matter if they're a local, doesn't matter if they live across the street, doesn't matter if they come from Hackensack. Whoever's going to rent it should come and pay their fee at wherever. And then with that, they get a key, they give a deposit so that if there's anything damaged, in the end, you can, and if they if they bring the keys back, they can get their check back. Something like that is kind of what you would do to make sure that, first off, they don't damage the place, and second off, you get the keys back. And they have the keys for the field.
What happens if they don't bring it? I mean, obviously,
keep their-
we
you
keep
keep
their
the deposit.
deposit.
You keep their
But then, we
$200
have to
deposit.
we have to rechange the keys.
I think.
Well,
I
we'll
think-
have enough keys to do that.
Right.
No, I mean,
But
but
I
we have to
think-
change the key because then people have the key and can go in there whenever they want.
Right, the short answer is, yes, it's possible, so we should, as we're, add to the parks pile, what we want that system to look like, and then
What
we
is
can
the
start to
process?
sort
I
it.
mean, I figure if you are the person that knows like where
You
to
can
look
even
at.
do like a time thing, okay, you're renting it on the 13th, you pay, you can do it, and it's open for the day. You know,
Right,
something
open
like
for the-
that.
yeah.
Like-
Well, I didn't know what kind of price, you know, those things, how much those things cost and, you know, whether it be, you know, better than having to replace keys all the time or having people, you know, trying to find a
I'd have
person to
look-
open them up.
I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, if you don't mind looking into it, that
Sure.
would be help. I know you
Yeah,
have
I-
like 10,000 things to do, but,
I'll call Murphy and have him give me ideas on locks, you know.
okay,
different-
thank you.
All right, I'm moving this forward. Minutes. I'll make a motion, ask for a second to accept the minutes of the regular bi-monthly town board meeting held on April 24th, 2023. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Deirdre. Any additions, edits? All in favor of approval? Aye. Vouchers. Claim numbers 201-292-1507 through 201-292-1588. I make a motion, ask for a second, that those vouchers, having been audited by the town board, be approved for payment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jay. Carrie submitted the report of vouchers exceeding $5,000, many of the ones you would expect. Environmental consultants, $6,834. That's the monthly maintenance of the old sewer plant. The faster we close that, the sooner we'll save that money. Jacobowitz and Grubitz, $11,050. March legal matters. The IBEW Welfare Fund, Highway Health for May, $13,440. Showalter Equipment for the sweeper rental for April, $6,400. And the monthly May paramedic services, the standard $63,196.50. We added today the emergency sewer repair, ARPA, for the inliner. That was the camera and scoping work, $31,947.58. And we made a transfer of funds from ARPA to the sewer to reimburse that. Same amount, $31,947.58, as Maria pointed out earlier. ARPA funds are covering that work. Motion to approve, all in favor? Aye. Okay, vouchers are taken care of. Minutes, vouchers. Public comments. Evelyn, are you still there? You had a comment. There she is.
Yes, I'm still here.
God bless you. God bless us.
Yeah. Yeah, God bless everybody. Okay, here's the deal. A question for you. Any way to get an official tuxedo digital or a rain gauge where you could post the findings on weather.com? I know that's asking. I mean, I don't know how they do that. Or make a recording where we could call in to get the rain totals, temperatures, general weather, or just the rain totals.
I know Channel
You know
2
what I mean?
News has weather watchers that are volunteers, and I'd be happy to encourage you to sign up and be the tuxedo weather watcher. You could be mentioned on Channel 2.
I would also say that,
But I'm not there to do that. That's the problem.
Are you just curious as to how we're suffering here? Is that
but
what you want to know?
what I'll say is weather.gov, not weather.com.
Oh.
Weather.gov, which is the NOAA weather information
Yes.
website. Typically,
Yes.
when there are storm events, publishes the rainfall totals, snowfall totals. They publish a lot of that information, and there is regularly information from Tuxedo. I don't know where the station is exactly, but there is Tuxedo information. So
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah,
Because I
weather.-
looked on it the last storm and I couldn't find it. So then I started thinking maybe, Tuxedo could just, like, when you're doing water work in the village or the park, wherever, there's a number you can call to find out when the next there are recordings you can call. So I was thinking about that. But okay, so I'll go on weather.gov. I will
Yeah, go
go
on.
definitely check it out.
Yeah, it's not the most friendly website, but there's a lot of information there if you dig down into it. Weather.com
Yes,
is the website of the Weather Channel, so we're not calling them and giving them anything.
Do you know what? I know that in the senior meeting, we talked a bit about this, that there used to be a public service channel associated with Optimum, and they were for Tuxedo, and we're not sure if that's going on. There's a person who's doing research on that, and that would be a place where information like that would probably lead to,
Awesome.
you know,
Somebody's got to feed it, but, yeah.
somebody's got to feed it,
All
yeah.
right. All right, any other public comments?
Okay. Thank you.
Public comments are closed. Hopefully, there's no other business because I'm not really looking forward to entertain that because my sugar level is way off right now. I'm at the hour of a popular agenda,
Okay.
okay? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:45. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
God bless you. Thank you, everyone. Shut off your microphone.